Chapter 72. Feeling the hidden power in his heart, Tirtian couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. The heart is the source of life, the source of power. The stronger the heart, the stronger the entire body will slowly and naturally become stronger. The first step is done. Next, the matter of opening the spirit dwelling will truly begin. Tirtian took a deep breath and felt the vigorous power in his body. With the support of the spirit-gathering pills and spirit wine, although he continuously tempered his heart for 3 days, the spirit chi in his body was still abundant and was still at its peak. However, he didn't start immediately. Instead, he opened his eyes again and opened the jade bottle. He shook the bottle and heard the crisp sounds of the pills colliding with each other. With a flash of light, he reached out with his tiger claw and tipped the jade bottle over. Unexpectedly, all of the spirit-gathering pills in the bottle fell out. There were more than 20 pills. He also took out 2 bamboo tubes filled with spirit wine. It was mentioned in the bloodline inheritance that when opening the spirit dwelling, it is best to have an expert guarding it. At that time, the more spirit chi that is poured in, the higher the chances of opening a higher quality spirit dwelling. I don't have an expert to guard me. It seems that I can only use these spirit-gathering pills and spirit wine. Tirtian thought to himself. Without any hesitation, he swallowed all of the 12 pills and spirit wine. In the blink of an eye, a huge amount of heat rose up from his stomach. This heat was like the scorching sun on a summer day, giving people a scorching feeling. The surging hot air instantly broke through the demonic power net that was originally binding them. Change of path, return to origin. At this moment, Tirtian's mind was unprecedentedly calm. This was an important moment that determined his life. He definitely couldn't have the slightest bit of negligence or carelessness. Calmness was the most important factor. Feeling the heat wave rolling out from his body, he didn't panic. In his heart, he followed the method obtained in the inheritance. Relying on his strong willpower, he quickly gathered all the spirit chi in his body and quickly swept it towards the surging heat wave. Wrapped in a large amount of power, it madly rushed towards the location of his heart. The spirit-gathering pills and spirit wine that were scattered all over his body contained a large amount of spirit-gathering pills and spirit wine. An endless stream of spirit-gathering pills rushed towards the location of his heart from all directions. Boom! His heart pounded intensely. Suddenly, a strong suction force burst forth from within. At this moment, his heart seemed to have become an ocean that wanted to suck everything into it. Tirtian's demonic power, along with a huge amount of spiritual chi, rushed into his heart. What rushed in was not just demonic power, but also all of Tirtian's mind. Is this the heart? Why is the surroundings so gray? As soon as Tirtian entered, he felt his mind go into a trance. When he came back to his senses, the power of his demonic sense immediately condensed into a black tiger the size of his body. The purple king mark on its forehead was like a purple flame pulsating. He looked around. When he saw it, he couldn't help but be secretly surprised. He saw. The surroundings were gray and hazy. There was no sign of life. Even his demonic awareness could not detect far. He could only detect an area of about 10 meters. It seemed to be a chaotic world with nothing in it. Only the gray gas continued to roll and float. It was very strange. Opening up the demon mansion, opening up these 2 words, so that's what it means. There was a legend in the myths of his previous life. Before heaven and earth were formed, it was actually in chaos. There was no light, no earth, no mountains and rivers. There was almost no life. It was the great god Pangu who was born in the chaos. After waking up, he waved the sky-splitting divine axe and split open the chaos. It caused the clear air to rise and the turbid air to sink. The clear was the sky and the turbid was the earth. In the end, he supported the heavens and the earth with his body. He used life to evolve all things in the world. Therefore, this was the origin of all things in the myth. The creation of the heavens and the earth, the creation of chaos. The demon mansion originally did not exist. When the demonic energy surged into the heart, it naturally formed the world that Di saw now. This world, in the demon clan, was called the original world. And to get the demon mansion, one had to be like Pangu, opening up this original world and forming the demon mansion. That was why there was the saying of opening up the demon mansion. Well, let's see what kind of demon mansion I can open up. Looking at the dusky original world around him, Di-Shirtian's heart was filled with a strong fighting spirit. Fighting with the heavens was endless fun. Fighting with the earth was endless fun. Fighting with people was endless fun. Fighting with himself was even more endless fun. Buzz! A loud voice suddenly rang out in the origin source world. This buzzing sound was abnormally long, and the countless gray gas in the origin source world immediately went berserk and tumbled violently under this buzzing sound. It was as if the entire world was trembling because of this sound. In this violent tumbling, the originally dusky world began to change. A large area around Di-Shirtian was destroyed by this heavenly sound, turning into countless elements of earth, fire, water, and wind that rampaged wildly. This buzzing sound came from Di-Shirtian's mouth. Opening up the demon mansion was not something that could be done by ordinary means. It required a unique secret technique to succeed. There were many ways to open up the demon mansion. In ancient times, it could be said to be ever-changing. But in the Tiger Roar technique, perhaps because the Tiger clan had an extraordinary talent in sound waves, the secret technique they opened up was different from the rest. It was called the 3 sounds opening up the demon mansion. What were the 3 sounds? These 3 sounds were said to be the very first sounds that were made at the beginning of the world. Every syllable contained great power. When made with the correct method, it could shock ghosts and gods and make the world tremble. The 3 sounds were buzz, moo, and roar. Every syllable contained boundless mysterious power, each representing a kind of extreme power. If it was in his normal state, even if Di-Shirtian was 10 times stronger, he would not be able to make such a heavenly sound. It could only be used in such a special environment when opening up the demon mansion. The moment the buzzing sound came out, Di-Shirtian felt that this sound did not come from his mouth, but from his soul. His soul was constantly vibrating, and the sound was made by the vibration. Moreover, in this vibration, there was an indescribable pain in his mind. This pain was completely from his soul. It was an intense pain caused by the vibration of his soul. This kind of pain, as long as he experienced it once, he would not be able to forget it for the rest of his life. With him as the center, the gray space around him began to shatter. Around him, the appearance of a space appeared. Although this space was only 10 meters wide, it was truly different from the gray world at the beginning. This was the initial appearance of the demon mansion. Rumble! However, as soon as the demon mansion was formed, it was extremely unstable and fragile. The gray gas around it rolled violently, erupting with waves of violent power that attacked the demon mansion. Under such an attack, the demon mansion began to rumble and distort, as if it was going to close up at any time and turn back into the original world. Moo! When Di-Shirtian saw this, how could he be willing to let the demon mansion return to chaos? One had to know that when he had just made the buzzing sound, he immediately felt that his mind had become abnormally tired, as if he had used up a lot of energy. He estimated that with his ability, he could only make 2 or 3 more vibrations of the buzzing sound before it was completely exhausted. As for the 3 buzzing sounds, he more or less understood the meaning of the first buzzing sound. Now that he saw the demon mansion on the verge of collapse, as if it would be destroyed at any time, he immediately followed the steps in the inheritance and made the second buzzing sound. The buzzing sound was heard. The vibration in his soul appeared again, and the terrifying pain reappeared in his mind. With him as the center, invisible sound waves immediately spread out in all directions. This was the power of the soul, the mighty power of the original world. Wherever the formless sound wave passed, the trembling Yao manor, which was on the verge of collapse, immediately became firm and stable. The mysterious mighty power filled the demon mansion. No matter how much gray gas was rampaging outside, it was still like a reef in a stream, as stable as Mount Tai, not moving in the slightest. Good, so this buzzing sound actually has such a miraculous ability. All the terrible pain I suffered was not in vain. It was worth it. When Di Shurtian saw this, he could not help but feel joy. Even the terrifying pain in his mind seemed to have lessened by a lot. He also began to secretly understand the meaning and mystery of the three sounds. The buzzing sound continued for a while in the demon mansion. After a period of time, the demon mansion would become even more firm and stable. The first two sounds were so extraordinary. I wonder what kind of mysterious power the third one has. After making the second buzzing sound, Di Shurtian only felt that his mind was unprecedentedly heavy. He felt that he would completely faint at any time. Two buzzing sounds had used up almost all of his strength. He did not have any strength left to make the third buzzing sound. So tired. I really want to sleep. No, this buzzing sound is too taxing on me. This third buzzing sound. Di Shurtian stood in the demon mansion that he had opened up. He felt that his mind and will were sinking. His eyelids were like two incomparably heavy mountains, slowly falling down and closing. Even the purple king mark on his forehead had become incomparably dim. It did not have the same charm and temperament as before. He could not concentrate at all. In the bottom of his heart, there seemed to be countless voices shouting at him. Sleep, sleep. Sleep peacefully. When you wake up, everything will be beautiful. All kinds of temptations appeared in his mind. Although he wanted to make the third buzzing sound, he did not have the strength. He had originally estimated that he could make it 2 or 3 more times. He did not expect that making the buzzing sound would be so taxing on his mind. Since there were 3 buzzing sounds, it meant that only by making the third buzzing sound could it be considered complete. But now, he could not make it. Do you want to make the third buzzing sound? Brothers, tell me with your support. Chapter 73. What he didn't know was that although the three sounds mansion establishing, in reality, the first one was to open up one's source and form one's own demon mansion within it. This was similar to how Pangu had used his divine axe to cleave through the chaos, splitting it apart and forming the heavens and earth. However, the demon mansion at this moment was only at its most initial stage and also at its weakest. If nothing else happened, the newly formed demon mansion would be destroyed once again under the pressure of the surroundings. That was why there was a second heavenly sound. Its purpose was also revealed. It was to stabilize the demon mansion, causing the originally weak demon mansion to quickly become sturdy and stable. It had truly transformed into a demon mansion. In reality, after the second heavenly sound was vibrated, the demon mansion had already been formed. Even if the third heavenly sound was not vibrated, nothing bad would happen and the demon mansion would not be destroyed. In reality, the demon mansion had already been established. However, the three sounds mansion establishing had 3 heavenly sound. There was naturally a reason for that. Moreover, Di Shurtian wasn't clear about this. After vibrating 2 heavenly sounds consecutively, the pain from his soul, as well as the deep exhaustion from expending a large amount of energy, almost made him unwilling to think about anything else at this moment. Just like that, he fell into a deep sleep. He slept without knowing anything. However, his strong willpower kept him in a state of confusion. No, I must not fall asleep. I haven't vibrated the third heavenly sound. If I fail to establish the demon mansion because of this, it will be many times more difficult to establish it again. I'm afraid I won't be able to establish it again in my lifetime. I won't admit defeat like this. I must vibrate the third heavenly sound. In this daze, De Chertien's willpower miraculously recovered a momentary trace of clarity. He thought about the consequences of failing to establish the demon mansion. That would be a tragic ending where he would be unable to become a demon for the rest of his life. Ever since he started his demon cultivation, the feeling of mastering power made him unwilling to be like an ordinary tiger and live his life in ignorance. He wanted power. He wanted to obtain great power. In this, it wasn't just to obtain power to save White Tiger Mother and the others. This was just a trigger. He himself also hoped that one day, he could climb to the peak of cultivation, the limit of power. He wanted to see how powerful he would be at the end of his cultivation. Where was the limit of power? Demon Manor. The Demon Manor was the first step towards the peak. If he couldn't even take this step, then what was the point of talking about the future? However, willpower was just willpower. It did not represent everything. The exhaustion of one's mind was not something that could be recovered with just a single wish. Just a little bit of excitement would immediately cause one to fall into a state of confusion again. However, he was still persevering in his heart. The thought of not giving up kept echoing in his mind. Unfortunately, he was too tired. With his ability, it was still not easy for him to vibrate two heavenly voices. His mind was sinking down step by step, however, at this moment, something that De Chertien had done subconsciously finally produced an incomparably miraculous effect at this crucial moment. It could be seen that the snow-white jade embryo that had been quietly lying under Sakura also seemed to have felt the unwillingness to give up in his heart. His stubborn belief seemed to have triggered the mysterious power in the jade embryo. Wisps of white jade light shot out in all directions like a tide. In the blink of an eye, the dim light in the cave immediately became as bright and clear as day. Every single stone in the cave could be seen clearly. The jade light was gentle. Under the illumination of the light, the jade embryo appeared exceptionally mysterious. However, this jade light did not last for long in the cave. In the blink of an eye, it quickly retracted. At the same time, a huge mysterious power was emitted from the jade embryo. In an instant, it was transmitted into De Chertien's body. This mysterious power did not go anywhere else. Once it entered his body, it immediately rushed towards the position of his heart. The strong and powerful heart was still beating non-stop. However, the rhythm of the beating was much more intense than usual. On the surface, there were traces of gray light. The moment the mysterious power reached the front of the heart, it was immediately swallowed up like the demonic power and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In the newly opened demon mansion, a jade-like brilliance appeared out of thin air. This jade-like brilliance only circled around the demon mansion for a moment. Immediately, it found its target and rushed towards De Chertien, who was in the middle. Ah! Once the power emitted by the jade embryo merged with him, De Chertien felt that his originally exhausted consciousness was suddenly refreshed. His entire spirit was immediately uplifted. It turned out that the intense pain from the soul caused by the vibration of the heavenly sound had mysteriously calmed down. Furthermore, the power in his body had also magically completely recovered. His condition was unprecedentedly good. He was definitely at the peak of his peak. In an instant, he changed from dispirited to excited state. His state of mind was incomparably high. It's the jade embryo. It's the power of the jade embryo. The preparations I made previously were indeed effective. Fortunately, this is the case. Otherwise, I would not have the power to vibrate the third heavenly sound. De Chertien's eyes shone brightly. The purple king mark on his forehead was swept away from its previous dimness. It was now brimming with divine light. It was as if a flame was dancing. The rich aura of the king of beasts filled his entire body. Without even thinking, he immediately started to vibrate the third heavenly sound. Roar! The three heavenly sounds were not emitted from his mouth. That was because the power of the heavenly sound was far from what he could control right now. It could not even be said to be emitted by voice. It was completely produced by the vibration of the soul. Waves of intense pain surged madly once again. Compared to before, it was several times more intense. That incomparable pain was simply enough to cause a person with a weak will to go crazy on the spot and have a mental breakdown. Even if it was Sakra, he also had to rely on his firm willpower and clench his teeth to withstand it. When the third heavenly sound was emitted, immediately, a violent change occurred in the demon mansion. The demon mansion suddenly swelled and rapidly expanded outwards. The origin energy outside the demon mansion was constantly destroyed. Then, the destroyed space became the demon mansion's territory. In the blink of an eye, the demon mansion had expanded to 10 times its original size. The demon mansion did not expand without limit. After expanding to 10 times its original size, it stopped without any warning. Then, the demon mansion magically emitted a powerful suction force. Under this suction force, the origin energy outside was constantly tumbling. It was simply unable to resist, and was quickly pulled into the demon mansion by the suction force. When the grayish origin energy entered the demon mansion, it did not spread, nor did it fuse with the demon mansion. Instead, it rapidly gathered at the center of the demon mansion. A huge amount of energy gathered together and mysteriously formed a vortex. The vortex spun rapidly, constantly pulling in the origin energy into the vortex. What's going on? In his memory, such a thing did not happen in the demon mansion. When Di-Shir-Tian saw the scene before him, he could not help but be stunned. In his bloodline inheritance, there was no record of such a thing. However, he was only stunned for a moment. In the blink of an eye, he realized that this might be a good thing. The roar was still ringing out. The vibration of the soul consumed a lot of energy. However, because of the jade embryo, he had already completely recovered the energy he had previously expended. This third heavenly sound lasted for an exceptionally long time. Moreover, he discovered that as long as the heavenly sound continued, the origin energy outside the demon mansion would continuously surge in and pour into the vortex. Even a fool would know that the longer the heavenly sound lasted, the more benefits it would bring him. With the current advantage, if he did not properly grasp it, wouldn't he be an idiot? Without the slightest hesitation, he supported the vibration of the heavenly sound with all his strength. The demon dwelling was located in the heart, and the source energy was not limitless. Now that a portion of it had been consumed, when he opened up the demon dwelling, Tian Yin's power once again pulled in the source energy from the outside. In just a short moment, the source energy outside the demon dwelling was completely absorbed into the demon dwelling. At this time, the vortex in the center of the demon mansion continued to spin at a frightening speed. The origin energy that was originally a gaseous origin energy actually condensed into a ball of liquid under the constant rotation of the vortex. Moreover, the speed of the rotation did not slow down at all. Instead, it spun faster and faster. Strong ripples continuously emanated from the vortex. Not good! When Di-Shir-Tian saw this, he was alarmed and secretly cried out. This vortex could not be stopped. If it suddenly exploded, the enormous power hidden within would completely destroy the newly formed demon mansion in an instant. Swish! However, the thing he was worried about did not happen. He saw that after the vortex's speed reached a limit, it suddenly burst out with countless white lights. The white lights filled the entire demon mansion, and even Di-Shir-Tian's mind was drowned in an instant. His entire consciousness mysteriously became blank. It was as if everything had completely stopped. He could not sense anything that was happening in the demon mansion. And in this white light, something inconceivable happened. The ball of liquid condensed from the origin energy suddenly completely fused together, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a ball. One! Moo! Roar! 3 heavenly sounds mysteriously appeared in the demon mansion. They were not released by Di-Shir-Tian, but were naturally born in the demon mansion. The rhythm of the heavenly sounds was even more charming than when Tion released them. It was even more unpredictable. In the midst of these three heavenly sounds that sounded at the same time, three ancient divine patterns mysteriously condensed in the sky above the demon mansion. The appearance of the divine inscriptions was quite strange. They seemed to have a life of their own and would constantly change. It made it impossible for people to recognize what they were. The moment they were formed, they all rushed toward the ball of sparkling liquid in the center of the demon mansion, and easily fused with the liquid. With this fusion, a mysterious and unfathomable change occurred. My head is dizzy today, I can't code anymore, or else the code will lose its standard. The second watch will be put tomorrow, there's no need to wait for tonight. There will be the third watch tomorrow, and the critical moment has arrived. What will Tian's demon mansion be like? It will be revealed soon. Chapter 74. That ball of liquid seemed to have a life of its own, constantly changing its shape as it rapidly squirmed. In the blink of an eye, it had transformed into a small three-legged cauldron. The moment the cauldron was formed, the countless jade lights that filled the demon manor instantly retracted. Like tired birds returning to their nest, they surged towards the jade cauldron at the same time. The jade cauldron did not reject anything that came to it. Like a whale sucking in water, all the jade lights were absorbed into the cauldron in the blink of an eye. After the jade lights retracted, Tian's mind recovered. The moment he recovered, his first action was to look towards the center of the demon manor. The previous change was too unexpected, and it was a change that had never affected him before. The demon manor was the foundation of cultivation, and he could not help but be concerned and nervous. He was afraid that something unfavorable would happen to the demon manor from this change. With this look, his mind could not help but be stunned. He saw that in the center of the demon manor, a jade cauldron had suddenly appeared. The cauldron had 3 legs, and there were mysterious runes on its surface. They crisscrossed and connected together, emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. The cauldron was not still, but was slowly rotating on the spot. After the demon manor was formed, there would constantly be wisps of black gas emerging. The aura that was emitted from this black gas was very familiar to Tian. It was the demonic power in his body. The demon manor's existence was originally used to store demonic power. In the future, when there was no demon manor, demonic power would be stored in the meridians. That was a flaw. If the meridians were full, it meant that one's cultivation had reached the peak. Without the demon manor, there was no possibility of further advancement. Once the demon manor was formed, the place where demonic power was stored would no longer be the meridians, and would naturally flow into the demon manor. For example, the meridians were the temporary residence, while the demon manor was the true residence. The demonic power continuously surged into the demon manor. The jade cauldron's rotation seemed to have an unusual attraction to demonic power. All the demonic power gathered towards the jade cauldron from all directions. As it approached the jade cauldron, it was immediately sucked into the jade cauldron, condensing chi into liquid. Sakura looked at the changes in the jade cauldron in shock. The demonic power that was originally in a gaseous state, after entering the jade cauldron, immediately turned into a thick black fog. This fog was all transformed from demonic power. As more and more demonic power gathered, along with the rotation of the jade cauldron, there seemed to be a mysterious power in the cauldron that tempered the black fog, causing the color of the black fog to become deeper and more condensed. Pata! A clear sound rang out from the cauldron. A drop of incomparably black water mysteriously dripped down from the black fog into the jade cauldron. A drop of black water naturally appeared at the bottom of the cauldron. This was actually the liquefaction of demonic energy. The liquefaction of the demonic energy was also the result of the successful breakthrough of the tiger roar art. It was the most obvious sign of advancing into a demonic beast. This drop of demonic liquid was like a signal. Every 3 revolutions of the jade cauldron, it would condense a drop of pitch-black liquid from the demonic mist. He fell into the cauldron. Using his demonic awareness to investigate, he couldn't help but gasp in amazement. The demonic energy contained within a drop of demonic liquid was completely condensed from 100 times the volume of the demonic liquid. Not only was the demonic energy purer, but he also had a feeling that as long as he thought about it, he could control this liquefied demonic energy like a wave of his arm. As long as he used 1% of his strength, he could do things that he couldn't do even if he used 10% of his strength in the past. The jade cauldron wasn't big, only the size of a bowl. However, even if he condensed all of his original demonic energy, he estimated that he could only condense about 100 drops of demonic liquid. This amount was only enough to cover the bottom of the jade cauldron. Good. Di observed the changes in the demonic abode. Looking at the jade cauldron, he couldn't help but understand. I understand now. So, for the 3 notes abode formation, an ordinary demonic abode only needs to vibrate the second note to complete it. If the third note is vibrated, it will merge with the previous 2 notes and undergo a miraculous transformation. It will swallow the heavens and absorb the earth, forming this cauldron in the demonic abode. This cauldron is the key to the demonic abode. After all, he wasn't an ordinary demonic abode. Looking at the changes in front of him and associating it with the information he received from the bloodline inheritance, he finally realized that to open up the demonic abode, one only needed to vibrate the second note. As for the third note, it was the foundation to truly raise the grade of the demonic abode. His guess was indeed correct. If he didn't vibrate the third note after the second note and allowed his consciousness to fall asleep, the highest grade of the demonic abode when he woke up would only be the earth grade. The benefits could be said to be great, but it would be more stable and larger than ordinary demonic abode. The benefits couldn't be compared to the current situation. The jade cauldron formed in the demonic abode was called the demon refining cauldron in the ancient demonic abode. Don't misunderstand. Demon refining didn't refer to refining demonic beasts, but refining the energy of the heavens and earth. All kinds of energy were refined into demonic energy. Moreover, this process was operated by the demon refining cauldron. Even if it didn't need to be controlled, it would still rotate naturally. It absorbed the yuan qi of the heavens and earth from the outside world into the cauldron. Of course, if there was someone controlling it, the demon refining cauldron would rotate even faster. Moreover, the demon refining cauldron didn't only have the ability to refine the energy of the heavens and earth. It had countless miraculous uses. For example, for a demonic beast without the demon refining cauldron, if they wanted to cultivate, they would have to slowly refine the spiritual energy absorbed into their body into demonic liquid. This process would definitely take a lot of time. Just this point alone showed how miraculous the demon refining cauldron's existence was to a demonic beast. The demon refining cauldron also had a measuring function. When the demonic liquid filled the cauldron, it meant that at that time, one could begin to condense an inner core and truly transform into a demonic beast. Just as Di Shurtian was secretly rejoicing, the demon refining cauldron had completely condensed all the demonic beast in the cauldron into liquid form. At this point, all the demonic beast in his body had completed the transformation from a gaseous state to a liquid state. The demonic beast now was also known as demonic qi. The jade cauldron vibrated, and the demonic qi in the cauldron quickly rushed out. It left the demonic abode. It re-entered the meridians in his body. The demonic qi was like flowing water, quickly circulating through his meridians. Boom, boom, boom! The demonic energy had undergone a qualitative change, and the circulation speed of the tiger roar technique had become even faster than before. The pitch-black demonic fog outside his body had become even denser. In the air, the whirlpool formed by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth suddenly spun faster. Waves of spiritual energy continuously surged in from all directions. Moreover, outside the cave residence where Tirtian was cultivating in seclusion, the wind and clouds changed color. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the valley, which was originally very dense, quickly gathered and rushed into the cave residence under the guidance of the tiger roar technique. A huge amount of spiritual chi rushed into the vortex and poured into Tirtian's body. Boom! 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 The transformed demonic chi flowed in his meridians. Everywhere it passed, a small part of the demonic chi would merge into his flesh and blood, strengthening his body. In the midst of the demonic fog, Tirtian's already humongous tiger body underwent another drastic change. His whole body was like an inflated balloon, fiercely expanding. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth rushed into his body, making this change even more obvious. A part of the spiritual chi rushed into his meridians and circulated along them. Then, it naturally entered the demonic cave, where it was continuously refined by the demon refining cauldron into pure demonic chi. Another part rushed into every inch of his flesh and blood, quickly merging into his flesh and blood, causing every inch of his body to be filled with powerful energy. This energy could not be released, and naturally, it caused his body to grow again. 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. This time, the violent expansion caused Tirtian's body to grow to a height of 50 feet at a speed visible to the naked eye. His huge body could not even accommodate the cave residence that he had previously opened. The powerful body shattered the surrounding mountain walls and expanded the cave to a size of 50 feet. At this moment, a vigorous aura burst out without any concealment. Covered the sky and covered the earth, rolling like waves. There was nothing that could block this powerful aura. It was filled with the domineering aura of a king. It was cold, and it looked down on the world. The Myriad Demon Valley was the first to bear the brunt. Almost in an instant, it was covered by this tyrannical aura. This is the king's aura. It's the king. The king has become even more powerful. In the valley, all the creatures did not even have the heart to resist under this tyrannical aura. One by one, their bodies were like chaff, trembling constantly. Looking at the place where Tirtian was in seclusion, they showed a look of awe and joy. Chihua and the other four also understood that this aura was many times stronger than before. They immediately realized that this must be the king's major breakthrough in his seclusion. This tyrannical aura that soared into the sky did not stop because of this. It covered the entire valley, gushed out of the valley, and spread in all directions. Wherever it went, the tyrannical pressure like a mountain made the birds and beasts bow their heads and kneel on the ground. Even some of the spiritual beasts around could not withstand it. They wanted to resist, but it was fine if they did not resist. Once they resisted, the pressure on them increased exponentially. They had to lie on the ground. Roar. A tyrannical tiger's roar rushed into the sky from the Myriad Demon Valley. The tiger's roar was even more shocking than before. The stone door that was originally isolated from the cave was shattered on the spot. The black clouds in the sky above the valley churned violently before dispersing. The tiger's roar was extremely long, and it covered a wide range. The entire southern barbarian lands could hear it clearly. This was the first roar of a demonic beast after it was born. In the roar, it announced to the entire mountain range that another expert was born in the southern barbarian mountain range. It was also to show its majesty to the creatures in the mountain range. Howl! Tirtian's tiger's roar obviously affected other demonic beasts in the mountain range. Just in the south of the Myriad Demon Valley, a high-pitched roar cut through the sky. Even the tiger's roar could not hide its amazing power. This is yesterday's second update, which is not included in today's update. There are 2 more updates in the evening. Today, I saw in the book review that someone questioned the difficulty of the puzzle lock. This is not easy to explain. If you really want to know, go find some puzzles and play with them. Chapter 75. This was the cry of a bird, and it was extremely penetrative. It carried the arrogance of a king amongst birds, and it didn't yield in the slightest to D. Shertian's tiger roar. Yeah! After this cry, it couldn't be considered to have come to an end. An abnormally rough and unpleasant cry could be heard from the north. This sound was very unique, and it gave people an absolutely deep impression. It was the cry of a crow. After it was released, not only was it ear-piercing, it also gave people an extremely irritating feeling. Traces of a gloomy aura rose from the north. Roar! In the east, a roar that shook the heavens, and it didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. It similarly resounded in an overbearing manner and shot straight into the clouds. The overbearing aspect of this sound wasn't the slightest bit inferior to D. Shertian's tiger roar. That was the roar of a lion. Lions and tigers were powerful existences on the same level in the mountain forest. They had the aura of dominating the mountain forest. Roar! In the west, a howl that was filled with a wild nature shot into the sky. Along with the howl, there were also sounds of terrifying collisions. It was as if something was being knocked on, and the sound was abnormally terrifying. It carried an intense desire for battle, an intense desire to destroy. People who were agitated couldn't help but feel the blood in their bodies boil along with it. 5 enormous long howls and roars sounded out from the southern barbaric mountain range at almost the same time at this moment. Their roars didn't yield in the slightest to each other, and it was even more impossible for them to show weakness. They rose and fell one after another and interweaved together. It was truly an unprecedented grand occasion in the southern barbaric mountain range. The pressure emitted from the 5 voices was like Mount Tai pressing down. It completely covered the entire mountain range under this terrifying aura. Demon beasts, they were all demon beasts. Anyone that was able to transform into a demon beast was an absolute expert amongst the demon beasts. Although the auras of the 5 were intertwined together, they also fell together, and the pressure that was produced was simply world-shaking. At this moment, all the living beings in the entire southern barbaric mountain range, no matter what they were doing, couldn't help but be pressed to the ground. Their bodies ceaselessly trembled, and they didn't even dare to raise their heads. Within the mountain range, not only were there all kinds of living creatures, but there were also many cultivators who were training and searching for treasures. These 5 waves of pressure came too suddenly. There was no sign at all. After they appeared, it didn't matter if they were birds, beasts, or humans. All of them were covered by the pressure. Most of these cultivators were small cultivators in the chi refining stage. How could they resist the pressure of the 5 demonic beasts at the same time? Their faces were pale, and their hearts were filled with fear. Their legs were like a sieve, and they couldn't help but softly fall to the ground. What's going on? Could it be that the demon beasts in the southern barbaric mountain range? This has never happened before. It's too terrifying. Oh my God! What demon beast is emitting such a terrifying aura? This is too terrifying. If they were to appear before me, I wouldn't even dare make a move against them just by relying on this aura. F***CK. Didn't they say that the demon beasts in the southern barbaric mountain range wouldn't easily move out? Who said this? If I find out, then I'll surely beat him up until even his mother can't recognize him. Under this terrifying aura, at the same time that the cultivators in the southern barbaric mountain range were shocked, they all cursed in their hearts. Such a thing had never happened before in the past. Terrifying, truly too terrifying. It was no wonder that so long as a demon beast was able to cultivate within the southern barbaric mountain range, then most of them would possess intelligence that was almost no different from humans and would start to know how to cultivate. Moreover, demon beasts had a rather deep concept of territory, and they normally wouldn't easily leave their area of influence. So long as one didn't offend them, then there would naturally be no problems. Speaking of which, These roars that rose up in succession just happened to be the few great overlords of the southern barbaric mountain range. Besides Tion, there was a total of 5 of them, and each of them was at a different location within the mountain range. They were called the 5 great demon beast kings. Every single one of them possessed a large area of influence. They didn't lack subordinates that were at the demon beast level under them. This time, because Tion had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, his tiger roar carried the aura of a king, and his imposing aura that was unwilling to remain dormant, so it naturally caused the other demon beasts to retaliate. They joined in on the spot, wanting to use their roars and imposing aura to suppress him. However, only 4 of them joined in, and there was still one more demon beast that didn't join in this battle. For a time, in the sky above the mountain range, tiger roars, lion roars, crow cries, bird cries, and roars rose up in succession, rising and falling in succession. All of them wanted to suppress the other, but they were evenly matched, and no one was able to suppress the other. There was nothing they could do about it, and after being entangled for a short moment, the various roars vanished in unison. Bang! 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 At this time, in the cave where he was in seclusion, the cave was filled with thick black demonic fog. In the demonic fog, Tion stopped roaring, and his tiger body, which was originally 50 feet tall, suddenly underwent a strange change. Black light flickered all over his body, and the originally huge tiger body suddenly began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. 40 feet, 30 feet, 10 feet. He didn't stop until he had shrunk to the size of an ordinary tiger. I've finally become a demon beast, and I can freely change between size and size. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome for me to move around in the valley with my 50 feet tall body. The first obvious way to become a demon beast was to be able to change its size. Of course, there was a limit to this change. For example, when he grew bigger, he could only change to his original size, which was 50 feet tall. When he shrunk, he could at least return to his original size of a tiger. Moreover, there wouldn't be any change in his strength. After shrinking, Tion didn't come out of seclusion. Instead, he closed his eyes again and activated the tiger roar technique, allowing the demonic vitality to flow continuously in his meridians. The most obvious change after becoming a demon beast was that he could change his size, which was already mentioned. The second change was that he could refine the hyoid bone in his throat. He could speak human language. Animals couldn't speak human language because they were born with a hyoid bone in their throat. The existence of this hyoid bone was the main culprit that prevented them from speaking. In the past, although Tion knew this reason, the existence of the hyoid bone was not something he could refine. He could clearly feel the hyoid bone. At that time, he also wanted to try refining the hyoid bone with his 3rd level of demonic energy. Unfortunately, the hyoid bone was as stable as Mount Tai under the influence of demonic energy, and there was no difference at all. After becoming a demon beast, the demonic energy in his body would transform into a liquid form of demonic vitality, and he could use the demonic vitality to refine the hyoid bone. To Tion, this was already a matter of success when the conditions were right. After refining the hyoid bone, I can speak human language. When he thought of this, Sakra didn't hesitate in the slightest and intended to resolve this matter in one go during his closed-door cultivation this time. Immediately, his mind was immersed in his body as he urged his demonic energy to circulate all the way. When it circulated to his throat, he was able to rely on his demonic sense to clearly see that there was a fine and firm black bone in the middle. The hyoid bone did not affect eating and drinking, but when speaking, it would naturally bounce up due to the vibration of the vocal cords. Therefore, it was impossible to speak the human language. Humans were born with one less hyoid bone than birds and beasts, which was why they could speak from a young age. As for demons, they had to refine it. This is it. Seeing this, Tion didn't hesitate. With a thought, waves of demonic vitality immediately wrapped the small hyoid bone completely and began to refine it naturally. The hyoid bone was very strong, but after all, it had no resistance. Under the refinement of the demonic vitality, the hyoid bone was refined little by little. This refinement took a full 2 hours. Under the continuous demonic vitality, the hyoid bone quickly softened. Finally, after 2 hours, the hyoid bone was directly refined into a ball of pitch-black liquid. This liquid condensed together. It turned into a black water droplet. He opened his tiger mouth and spat. In an instant, this ball of liquid was spat out from his throat on the spot. As soon as the water droplet left his body and touched the air outside, it also underwent a strange change. The originally liquid water droplet solidified at an incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, it had turned into a pitch-black bead. It was round and smooth. When it fell to the ground, it emitted traces of dark light. The hyoid bone can be refined into a bead? What's the use of this? Seeing this, Chertion was also surprised. He held the bead in his tiger claws and used his demonic consciousness to explore inside, but found that the power of his demonic consciousness couldn't explore inside at all, and he couldn't find anything special about it. However, thinking that since he couldn't understand it, it shouldn't be simple, he still put the black bead in a jade box. He put it into the animal bag. The demonic fog outside his body rolled violently a few times, and then flowed back into his body through the countless pores on his body. Sakra quietly laid on a brown fur, his pair of eyes brimming with vigor. His tiger eyes were full of deep confidence. The gains from this seclusion were really too great. He opened up his own demonic residence. Moreover, this demonic residence was not the low-grade yellow or black demonic residence, but the most magical heaven-grade demonic residence. This meant that on the path of demonic cultivation, not only would his potential become incomparably strong, but his cultivation speed would be several times faster than ordinary demonic beasts, or even dozens of times faster. With such an advantage, he was destined to rise. Moreover, the demon refining cauldron in the demonic residence saved him the time needed to refine a large amount of demonic power. It could directly turn demonic power into liquid and condense into demonic vitality. The moment the power in his body broke through to become a demonic beast, compared to before the breakthrough, almost increased by no less than 10 times. It made his current strength even more powerful. Chertion was confident that if the Rat King that appeared not long ago ran in front of him again, he was confident that he could break through the Rat King's powerful defense in one go. Moreover, after refining the hyoid bone, he could speak freely from now on. A tiger's roar also allowed him to roughly understand the distribution of power in the southern barbaric mountain range and the location of the powerhouses. Brothers, another climax is coming soon. Let's throw our votes and collect it. Chapter 76. At that time, when his tiger roar sounded, there were 4 long roars that entangled with him, wanting to suppress him. From this situation, it was obvious that these were definitely the 4 overlord-level powerhouses of the southern barbaric mountain range. If I want to gain a foothold in the mountain range, with the current strength of the demon beasts, it won't be too much of a problem. However, if I want to go one step further and command the entire southern barbaric mountain range, these 4 will definitely be obstacles and will definitely have conflicts in the future. I have to carefully investigate in the future. Chertion secretly pondered in his heart. The tiger roar he let out before was firstly because he couldn't endure the excitement in his heart when breaking through, and secondly because he wanted to test how many powerful existences there were in the southern barbaric mountain range. This test was indeed fruitful. It was disdainful to say that these 4 would definitely be his future opponents. The heaven-rank demon residence is really powerful. According to the description of the inheritance, even if an ordinary demon was lucky enough to open up a demon residence, it would still take a huge amount of time to convert their demon power into demon essence. However, I saved this time. My strength directly stabilized as a demon beast. This is my advantage. And the demon refining cauldron is the foundation of my strength. Unfortunately, I know too little about the demon refining cauldron. I only know that it can refine and store demon essence, but I know nothing else. It seems that I have to spend more time on exploring the demon refining cauldron in the future. Silently thinking for a while, he secretly determined some future directions and things that needed to be done. Of course, he didn't start to feel complacent because he became a demon beast. Instead, he warned himself in his heart that the world was very big, and there was no lack of powerhouses. Demon beasts were just the first step on the path of demon cultivation. The road in the future would be even longer. King! After carefully sorting out the thoughts in his mind, his demon sense discovered that outside the cave, Chi Hua and the other four were waiting respectfully. He knew that this should be because the commotion he made before was a bit too big, and even the cave's door was shattered, making them realize that he was about to come out of seclusion. Therefore, he didn't stay in the cave for long. Walking out of the cave, when Chi Hua and the others saw Di Shirtian's suddenly shrunk body, the shock in their eyes was indescribable. If it weren't for the fact that the aura they felt from his body didn't change and became stronger, they would have thought that the person in front of them wasn't their king at all. Rise, all of you. Nothing happened in the valley, right? Di Shirtian looked at the 5 loyal subordinates in front of him and nodded to himself. Since he had a breakthrough this time, the 5 of them would naturally not be left out. Your Majesty, all the clansmen have settled down in the valley. Chi Hua had truly become the leader of Baiyue's group. Furthermore, his temperament was relatively stable, and his strength was the strongest. He was completely qualified to be the leader of the 5. When he heard Di Shirtian's question, he immediately replied, "Furthermore, these few days, we've been gathering various materials outside the valley with Yuan Tian. According to His Majesty's instructions, we transplanted a lot of each type of material and specially opened up a mountainous area in the valley for planting. My king, we have gathered all the ingredients needed to brew the monkey wine. We can start brewing at any time." When the Yuan Tian heard about the brewing of wine, he became very excited. His 2 claws kept scratching each other as he screamed at Di Shirtian. The eyes of Bai Susu and the others lit up at the same time. During this period of time, after knowing how to cultivate, every time before they cultivated, they would first drink a mouthful of spirit wine according to Sakra's instructions, and then cultivate. In this way, in the process of refining the spirit wine, they could completely feel how enormous and rare the power contained in the spirit wine was. Their demonic power rose with a whoosh 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 sound. Especially Yuan Tian. While he was excited, he also felt a little annoyed at himself. He secretly muttered in his heart, "Why did I drink the monkey wine in big bowls in the past? Drinking it like that, 80% of the medicinal power dissipated just like that. Waste, it was really too much of a waste. If he saved it and used it in his current cultivation, how fast would his cultivation speed be?" With such a mentality, he urgently wanted to start brewing the monkey wine again. All right. Di Shirtian's tiger eyes also lit up. For the monkey wine, he valued it no less than Yuan Tian and the others. Now that the spirit-gathering pills were gone, he had eaten them all. Now, if he wanted to increase the speed of his cultivation, he would need a new method. Very obviously, the method that appeared in his mind was naturally the monkey spirit wine, whose effects were not inferior to the spirit-gathering pills. It could only be stronger. Yuan Tian, you go and prepare to brew the monkey wine. The sooner the better. Also, Kong, take your people outside the valley to find all kinds of fruit. As long as you find them, bring them all to the valley and give them to Yuan Tian. As long as there are materials to brew the spirit wine, don't stop. The more we brew, the more it will help our cultivation. Susu, your snakes are good at moving on the ground. Let your people go out of the valley and search for all kinds of spirit herbs, ginseng, ganoderma, sealwort. As long as there are spirit herbs, bring them back to the valley. I want to open a medicinal garden in the valley. Around the brewing of the monkey wine, Tian gave several orders on the spot. As for the medicinal garden, it was quite necessary to exist. With the experience of his previous life, he knew that he could not rely on anything. He had to rely on himself. Spirit herbs like ginseng and ganoderma could be grown by himself. Once the spirit herbs in the garden matured, they would bear seeds, and with these seeds, he could grow more spirit herbs. Moreover, with the medicinal garden, he could gather all the spirit herbs in the valley. In the future, it would be much more convenient to use. There would be no need to search everywhere. Yes, Your Majesty. Hua and the others were not afraid of orders, but they were afraid of not having anything to do. What they hoped to do was to help their king solve all kinds of problems. They did not want their king to do everything himself. Your Majesty. After agreeing, Susu looked at Tian with some hesitation and asked carefully, Your Majesty, have you already? She wanted to ask about his breakthrough. Although she felt that the aura was stronger than before from that shocking and domineering tiger aura, she still felt that it was more powerful than before. But if she did not confirm it, she would not be at ease. Hua and the others also became spirited, and their eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Yes. Not bad, Tian nodded slightly and said, During this seclusion, I have successfully become a monster beast. These words greatly excited Hua and the others, and they looked at him with even more respect and awe. They did not say much, and immediately followed his orders with renewed vigor, and went to do their own things. Tian, let's go to the wine brewing cave. Tian instructed Tian. Tian immediately skipped in joy and led the way in front. They quickly shuttled through the valley, and soon, they arrived in front of a huge cave. This cave was dug by Tian with Hua and the others. The entrance of the cave was very big, and could accommodate more than 10 people at the same time. In front of the cave, several strong and tall apes were holding wooden sticks made of hardwood in their hands. Their eyes shone brightly as they stood guard, constantly scanning the surroundings. Even the slightest movement would attract their attention. There were 2 on each side, and they strictly guarded the cave. Seeing Tian and Tian come over, the eyes of the 4 apes showed traces of awe, and they respectfully retreated to the side, making way for them. After walking into the cave was abnormally spacious. They walked along the passage for 100 meters, and a hollow karst cave appeared in front of them. In the middle of the karst cave there was a small pool with a radius of 5 meters. Next to the pool, the apes were holding containers, such as stone ladles, melon ladles, and so on. These stone ladles were filled with clear mountains and rivers that were constantly emitting cold white air. When they got a little closer, they could feel the cold air emitted from the water. They poured the cold water into the pool one after another. It had to be said that the Myriad Demon Valley was a place blessed by nature in the southern barbaric mountain range. Not only was the valley rich in spirit chi, but it was also rich in species. There were mountains and rivers, and a cold pool was found near the cave. The water in the pool was bone-chilling. The cold pool water was the best kind of water used to brew monkey wine. Therefore, after discovering it, Tian let the clansmen take tools every day to fetch water from the cold pool and pour it into the wine pool. While pouring water, Tian found that some apes also put all kinds of unknown exotic flowers and herbs into the pool. There were a lot of fruits piled up around, and they were all ripe and just picked not long ago. Obviously, the brewing was already in progress. On the side of the wine pool, there were a lot of wild gourds picked. The seeds inside were removed, and they were the most suitable tools to be used to hold monkey wine in the future. King, I have already started brewing these days, but it will take a long time to brew the first batch of monkey wine. Yuan Tian was also somewhat helpless about this. Brewing wine was a work of hard work, and it could not be done in a day or two. The monkey wine was even more so. The materials added contained a lot of spiritual herbs, and the longer the precipitation and brewing time, the more pure and huge the power contained in the wine would be. It was not like the white wine brewed by ordinary people, which could be brewed in only 10 days to half a month. It doesn't matter how long it takes, but the matter of the spiritual wine is the most important secret of the myriad Demon Valley. In the future, if there is nothing else, you have to be stationed here for a long time. Just in case. Di Tian looked at the scene where the brewing had already begun and secretly nodded. He had talked to Yuan Tian about brewing wine before, so he knew that the real time was actually this time. The wine brewed here could be called the first wine. With the first wine, when brewing again, they could casually throw other materials into the wine pool. After brewing for 10 days to half a month, they could once again produce pure monkey wine. On the other hand, Di Tian and several other monsters in the southern barbaric mountain range suddenly launched a terrible momentum, which caused a great shock to the cultivators in the mountain range and even outside the mountain range. The terrible momentum that shrouded the entire mountain range made a large number of individual cultivators' faces become extremely pale. F***CK, it's not that I don't want to update. Actually, I had already finished writing this chapter last night. It's just that the internet was suddenly cut off at night, so I can only update it now. In the future, I will try my best to update it earlier. If it's already 12 o'clock at night, I hope that brothers won't continue to wait. Chapter 77. Outside the mountain range, there were 3 brothers among the freelance martial artists. Their original surname was Qin, and they were born at the foot of a mountain called Qin Mountain in the Chu country. At that time, their village was also a mountain village that relied on the mountain to survive. They were also lucky that when they were playing in the mountain, they saw a skeleton that had died many years ago in an abandoned cave. Before the skeleton, there were a few weapons and an ancient book. In the immortal world, this book was not some precious treasure. It was only the most basic martial technique for the Qi refinement stage. It was called longevity technique. It was the most common martial technique. Unlike eternal spring exercises and moistening exercises that targeted the spiritual roots, the longevity technique could only be practiced by those with spiritual root. It was the most popular martial technique. At the highest level, it could be practiced up to the perfect stage of the Qi refinement stage. Besides, practicing it would provide a great advantage for the recovery of spiritual Qi. Thus, in the immortal world, many people practiced this technique. The most astonishing thing was that the 3 Qin brothers all possessed spiritual root. Although the potential of their spiritual roots was not the best, it was not bad either. All of them had a single attribute. The eldest had the metal attribute, the second had the wood attribute, and the third had the earth attribute. Each one was different. At that time, they had practiced according to the diagrams in the ancient book with a curious attitude. Unexpectedly, it had helped them to cultivate spiritual Qi. Now, they were all at the 8th stage of the Qi refinement stage. Among the Qi refinement stage, they could be considered as elite warriors. Among the freelance martial artists in the Chu country, they had some reputation. This time, when they heard that the psychic compass of the Li family had been lost in the southern barbarian lands, a large number of martial artists had followed them to join in the fun. The 3 Qin brothers were named Qin Qi, Qin Sheng, and Qin Xian from the oldest to the youngest. All of them had a rough appearance and dressed like the people of the secular world. They did not have the temperament of a martial artist. Speaking of which, these 3 had an extremely interesting temperament. They were rare people in the immortal world. Big brother, I heard birds chirping in the mountain. I want to eat birds. The bird we roasted yesterday was so delicious. Qin Xian's eyes shone. His nerves were so thick that he could ignore any kind of pressure. It was as if he did not care about the terrifying pressure from a moment ago. Pa! The second brother, Qin Sheng, reached out and smashed his head. With a look of exasperation, he called out, "Idiot, what we ate yesterday was a snake with wings, not a bird." But snakes have wings. Didn't Big Brother say that birds that can fly are birds? It can't be wrong. We ate birds yesterday. The third brother, Qin Xian, had a look of certainty on his face. That's right. It has wings and can fly. Isn't that a bird? Boss, did we eat a bird or a snake yesterday? Second bro was also confused. As he looked at Qin Shi, he asked innocently, "Idiot, it looks like a snake and has wings like a bird. When a snake and a bird make a sound, wouldn't it be a snake and a bird?" The boss stretched out his hand and slapped the two of them on the head. "That's right. Boss is the quick-witted one. It's the snake bird." Second brother and third brother were enlightened. "Why do you care so much? I'm hungry again. Let's go, we're going into the mountain to catch some birds." With a shout, the three brothers rushed into the mountain range. The people who heard their conversation all held back their laughter. These three were simply buffoons. Not to mention their thick nerves, their brains were also one-track minded. When they did things, they never used their brains, and normally they would do many stupid things. However, the three brothers had a great tacit understanding. Moreover, they learned of formation from an unknown place. When the three of them used it, its power was boundless. Therefore, very few people would provoke the three of them. This was because, if they were to cause trouble, normal people wouldn't be able to handle it. For example, in the past, there was a child who asked them whether the chicken or the egg came first. This caused the three of them to quarrel for 3 days and 3 nights without any result. This matter was only the most insignificant of trifles. There were even more things that would cause people to be unable to hold back their laughter. Normally, cultivators would also avoid them. They were afraid that the three of them would cause trouble and drag them into it. What a powerful aura! The strength of each of these auras is above yours and mine. I'm afraid it's the demonic beasts of the southern barbaric mountain range. Zhong Yunfei felt the heavy pressure emitted from the mountain range, and his expression couldn't help but change. From the auras, he could clearly feel that no matter which one it was, their strength was definitely above his. Although his monster-slaying sword had boundless power and could be compared to a magic treasure, if he sensed too much, it would definitely be quite tragic, and he would be in great danger if he fought face to face. At this moment, he also felt the danger contained in the southern barbaric mountain range. "Senior brother Zhong, I can tell that the tiger's roar has the same aura as the one I heard in Tiger Hill mountain range. Perhaps it's the black tiger we're looking for." When Princess Chu Yun heard this, she was also shocked by the powerful aura emitted by the tiger's roar. However, the stronger the black tiger was, the more she wanted to conquer it. She urgently wanted to take the black tiger as her spirit beast. Zhong Yunfei's gaze couldn't help but quickly condense. He had an instinctive dislike for tigers, especially after he suffered a great loss at the hands of Di Shirtian. This feeling was even more intense. "Junior sister Yun, please rest assured. Although I suffered a great loss at the claws of the black tiger last time, it was because I didn't expect the black tiger to have such a powerful strength and mysterious attack. That's why I was heavily injured." Zhong Yunfei's body overflowed with traces of confidence as he said with certainty, "This time, we came prepared. I also have the dragon binding rope. Under the dragon binding rope, even a core formation cultivator may not be able to escape. Even if the demonic tiger cultivates into a demonic beast, it can forget about escaping. We must capture it and give it to junior sister Yun." Speaking of the dragon binding rope, his confidence grew even stronger. What was this dragon binding rope? It was a very famous item. His master killed an evil dragon in an evil dragon pool. Of course, although it was called a dragon, it was actually a flood dragon. The dragon's tendons were extracted from its body and refined with various secret techniques. It was a rare magic treasure. It was used to bind people. Moreover, the more the bound enemy struggled, the tighter the bindings would be. They could only watch helplessly as the bound enemy was executed. At that time, when Zhong Yunfei and Di Shitian fought, he completely didn't expect Di Shitian's valiant strength. So much so that he didn't even take out his magic treasure and fought until both sides suffered heavy injuries. He had no choice but to leave dejectedly. Great! Quickly look, those loose cultivators are starting to enter the mountain. When Chu Yun heard this, she couldn't help but feel a burst of joy. However, her eyes didn't leave the loose cultivators below. The loose cultivators seemed to have finally made up their minds and walked into the southern barbaric mountain range in group. The temptation of the psychic compass was truly too great for them. Riches and honor were sought in danger. For the sake of their future, these loose cultivators all mustered up their courage and finally started to enter the mountain. Come, let's go in as well. If we follow them, we might be able to find traces of the black tiger. Zhong Yunfei said decisively. He pointed a sword at his back and lightly guided. Clang! The demon-slaying sword on his back was unsheathed and flew into the air. The body of the sword trembled and actually expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it became incomparably enormous. The two of them leaped onto the body of the sword, and the ancient sword drew out a flowing light in the air as it charged towards the southern barbaric mountain range. For a time, the southern barbaric mountain range seemed to have already become a place of storms. Alas! After Zhong Yunfei and the others left, a long sigh suddenly sounded out from the mountain peak. Amidst the sigh, an old man who wore slightly sloppy clothes and held a violet gold gourd in his hand looked down at everything in the world with an aged expression. He shook his head and sighed. A few tens of thousands of years have passed. I never imagined that the violet gold continent would actually decline to such a degree. Thinking of how glorious and powerful the demon race was all those years ago, yet now, it has fallen to the point that it only has a few big cats and small cats. It didn't even leave behind a complete inheritance. Now, who is able to remember that year when the sky was filled with demon gods, chasing the stars and chasing the moon, howling through the heavens and the earth, and grasping the universe? The path of prosperity and decline is truly a mystery within a mystery. Alas! His words were filled with boundless lamentation and boundless emotions, all of which turned into a sigh. Old drunkard, every generation brings forth talent. Each of them has been in the limelight for tens of thousands of years. You and I have seen this kind of scene many times. How the living beings on this continent develop ultimately has their own rules. It's not suitable for you and me to interfere since a long time ago. Beside the disheveled old man, a man in black clothes with his hair draped over his shoulders appeared out of thin air. His body faintly emitted an unparalleled might, and his face was as sharp as a knife. He was abnormally cold, as if nothing could stay in his eyes for even a moment. Demon Lord, you've come as well. The sloppy old man wasn't surprised by the appearance of this man. He opened the gourd, and a rich wine aroma instantly spread out in the air, causing one to be intoxicated by it. After pouring a mouthful into his mouth, he sighed. The violet gold continent has always been the foundation of all world. Now that the demon race has declined, although the human race has risen, it's still far from the demon race of the past. No one knows when the sky will fall. Who can stop the sky from falling? In the end, the continent will once again spill the blood of billions of living beings. What a pity! What a pity! What a pity! Ask the heavens and earth, who is the master of the ups and downs. The sloppy old man sighed lightly and shook his head. His figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Following that, the man with the unparalleled might also disappeared. The mountain peak returned to silence once more. It was as if no one had ever appeared here just now. It was exceptionally strange. In the southern barbaric mountain range, a large number of cultivators surged into the mountain range, causing the atmosphere in the mountain range to become incomparably tense. The living beings in the mountain range weren't those unintelligent wild beasts. All sorts of birds and beasts were rapidly transmitting information in their own ways. In the center of the mountain range there was a quiet valley. The valley was filled with spirit energy all year round, and gorgeous peonies grew everywhere. They bloomed one after another, appearing noble and elegant. Chapter 78. Since ancient times, the peony had been known as the king of flowers. It was a symbol of grace, luxury, and dignified wealth. During the Tang dynasty, according to legend, Wu Zetian was touring the garden in the winter. In a moment of excitement, she actually ordered the flowers to bloom within a certain time. The flowers were intimidated by power and had no choice but to bloom. Only the peony did not bloom on time, so Wu Zetian ordered it to be set on fire and banished from Chang'an. Therefore, the peony also symbolized a kind of unyielding pride. All kinds of beautiful qualities were present on the peony. It could be said that the title of King of Flowers lived up to its name. In the valley, the peony bloomed, and the elegant fragrance of the flowers pervaded the valley. It made the creatures here feel relaxed and happy. There was also a poem that said, after falling completely, the red began to spew out its fragrance. Its beautiful name is the King of Flowers. It is praised as unparalleled in the world, the first fragrance of the world. Of course, the peony was not the only thing in the valley. There were all kinds of strange flowers, each emitting their own unique charm. Traces of the world's flowers could be seen in the valley. And in the depths of the valley, there were a few wooden houses leaning against a big tree. The wooden houses looked somewhat simple and crude, but they revealed traces of natural charm. In the house, a woman was sitting in front of the window. Her jade-like hands were holding flowers as she looked at the hundreds of flowers blooming outside. This was a peerless beauty. Her figure was well proportioned. If she was a bit taller, she would be too short. If she was a bit thinner, she would be too weak. If she was a bit fatter, she would be too fat. She was simply perfect. Her facial features were delicate and pleasant. Her mouth was delicate and charming, and her eyebrows were horizontal without makeup. If she was not painted, she would be too white. If she was not dressed, she would be too red. Her pair of large eyes were extremely vivid. Her pupils were serene and sparkling, as clear as a bottomless pool. Her skin was sparkling and delicate. It was truly worthy of the praise of ice skin jade bone clear without sweat, white wrist frost with traces of snow. If the heavenly fragrance fox monarch's beauty was pure and charming, causing one to be unable to help but want to possess her, then this woman's beauty was graceful and elegant. She gave people a temperament that made them want to love her tenderly. Sister, there's another monster in the mountain range. Judging from its voice, it's a tiger. As soon as it became a monster, it issued a provocation. It's too overbearing. Sister, why don't you suppress them? It was about 16 centimeters long. The head to the back of the neck was bright red, the upper back was dark brown, and the lower back to the waist was dark red. The tail feathers were dark brown with reddish-brown edges, and the chin, throat, and belly were dark red. The strange bird stood on the window and chirped. This bird was called the vermilion bird. According to legend, it had the bloodline of the vermilion bird in its body. It was a great variant species that could innately spit out fire. It possessed a deep spiritual nature and was extremely unordinary. Zhu having a demonic beast in the mountain range, is a good thing for the mountain range. It can also serve as a deterrent to the cultivators outside. As long as it doesn't affect the entire southern barbarian lands, I don't want to meddle too much. The young girl opened her red lips and smiled elegantly. Big sister, we can't stay in the 100 Flowers Valley forever. Just now, I heard from the birds in the forest that many cultivators have entered the mountain. When the time comes, these people will kill many of our clansmen in the mountain range. The vermilion bird looked at the young girl and rolled its eyes. It muttered, "Sometimes, Zhu really doesn't understand. As long as Big Sister is willing to take action, those cultivators who entered the mountain can be easily killed. Why don't you take action?" As it spoke, its tone carried a trace of annoyance and confusion. When the young girl heard this, a faint trace of helplessness appeared on her originally elegant face. However, it only flashed and disappeared as if it had never appeared. "Zhu, you don't understand." The young girl sighed softly and played with the petals between her fingers. She said, "It's not that Big Sister doesn't want to take action, but that I can't. Otherwise, it will bring a great disaster to the entire southern barbarian land." Inwardly, it felt bitter. How would you know my difficulties? If I take action and let the cultivation world know that there are demon experts like me in the mountain range, it will definitely provoke even more powerful experts. At that time, all the intelligent demon clans in the southern barbarian mountain range will be annihilated. Now, although there are cultivators coming in from time to time, they aren't experts after all. They're only some small chi condensation cultivators. Although it's difficult, it can ensure that the demon beasts in the mountain won't go extinct. Alas! The young girl sighed deeply. This was the current situation of the demon clan. Now, the continent was dominated by humans. Cultivators absolutely didn't want the demon clan to have a chance to rise. If they knew where a demon that had cultivated an inner core was, it would immediately provoke a large number of experts from the cultivation world. It must be known that the inner core within a demon's body was a superb product for refining medicinal pills and increasing one's cultivation. As long as they were discovered, they would call their friends and find a large group of people to fight and kill. Even if they didn't want to admit it, the demon clan was already in its most declining period. This was something that no one could deny. The young girl had the strength to annihilate all the cultivators in the southern barbarian mountain range, but so what if she did? At most, she would beat up the young and provoke the old. Not to mention that there wouldn't be any change, she wouldn't even be able to protect herself. Taking action wasn't to help, but to personally bury all the living beings in this mountain forest. Who could understand the frustrations in her heart? When the vermilion bird heard this, her eyes blinked. She didn't understand what the young girl said. She tilted her head and thought for a moment, then cried out, "Sister, Zhu doesn't understand what you're saying. Since you don't want to take action, then I'll go find the stinky crow and let them take action and teach those cultivators a lesson. Let's see if they still dare to kill the living beings in the mountain range." After the vermilion bird finished speaking, she spread her wings and waved them a few times. Her petite body was like a red flame, quickly flying outside. Her speed was extremely fast. If it was an ordinary person, they would only see a red light and might think that it was their own illusion. This Zhu. The young girl saw this and couldn't help but shake her head gently. At this time, in the myriad demon valley, Di Shirtian asked Chihua and the others to open a medicinal garden in an open space and planted ginseng, Ganoderma, and other spiritual medicines that could be found. Yuan Tian was happily brewing spirit wine with the ape and monkey clan. After seeing that the valley was basically on the right track, he also returned to the cave and began to meditate. After all, the demon mansion had just been opened, and what kind of role did it have? He still needed to slowly explore it himself. Now that I've become a demonic beast and opened up a demonic mansion, my cultivation has been smooth sailing. With the help of medicinal pills and spirit wine, as well as the bloodline inheritance and the intellect that ordinary spirit beasts don't have, I've been able to progress so quickly. If I want to cultivate next, hard work and external assistance are still indispensable. Di Shirtian's demon consciousness entered the demon mansion and looked at the demon refining cauldron in the center of the demon mansion. The cauldron was constantly rotating, and the demon liquid in the cauldron could only cover the bottom of the cauldron. To break through, this jade cauldron must be completely filled. At that time, the liquid demon power can be condensed again and form an inner core. Before becoming a monster, he could take a shortcut, but the next cultivation, compared to before, would be more difficult. If he cultivated according to the rules, he wouldn't be able to form an inner core without 100 years or hundreds of years. Obviously, 100 years or hundreds of years was definitely not what Di Shirtian wanted to wait. Roar! Just as Di Shirtian was pondering, not far from the Myriad Demon Valley, the high-pitched cry of an eagle pierced the sky. The sound carried traces of hatred and urgency. Hey, that's Ing Kong's cry. From the sound of it, he seems to be fighting. Could he be in danger? Di Shirtian was awakened by the cry of the eagle and suddenly stood up from the ground. From that cry, he could hear a hint of something unusual. Hiss! After Ing Kong's cry, another sharp roar followed. This roar was accompanied by waves of angry aura. Di Shirtian immediately recognized that it was by Susu's cry. Ing Kong and Susu were both sent out by him to search for fruits and spirit herbs outside the valley. From the looks of it, they must have encountered some terrible danger, which was why they cried out. Their cries carried traces of a cry for help. Hua! Di Shirtian didn't even think about it. He stomped on the ground with his two hind legs, causing countless cracks to appear on the ground. He jumped into the air and turned into a black stream of light. He jumped out of the cave and rushed directly toward the passage leading to the outside of the valley. While rushing toward the place where the cries came from, he quickly began to think. When I broke through to become a monster, I used my monster sense to scan the surroundings. There weren't any powerful spirit beasts outside the Myriad Demon Valley. Now that Susu and Ing Kong are in danger, and it happened at the same time, could it be that the group of rats from before still haven't given up and are planning to attack me again? He secretly guessed that the only thing that could threaten Ing Kong and the others was the group of rats underground, especially the Rat King. With its defensive power, it was practically invincible among the demons. Moreover, it was hiding underground, which made people helpless. It was a huge hidden danger. He had just become a monster, so he didn't have time to deal with it. After a while, he would find a way to find the group of rats underground. He instinctively felt that the layer of yellow light on the rats wasn't simple. Just as he was thinking, with his speed, he had already approached the place of the fight. Before he arrived at the destination, a burst of fighting and shouting entered his ears. Quick, quick, use the iron vine to tie up the python. If such a spirit beast is sold in the market, it would be worth at least 1,000 spirit stones. If we catch it, we won't have to worry about not having enough spirit stones to cultivate in the future. An excited shout spread far away. It was a person's voice, and only cultivators could enter the mountain range. Be careful of the eagle above. If this eagle is sold, the price of the white python will be higher. The southern barbarian mountain range is truly worthy of being a holy land for rogue cultivators like us to gain experience. It was a cultivator. Hearing this, Di Shirtian's eyes suddenly became cold. He'd always lacked a good impression of cultivators. Although he knew since long ago that there were many cultivators tempering and cultivating in the southern barbaric mountain range, his thoughts in the past were completely placed on breaking through and establishing his demon estate, and he utterly didn't have the time to pay attention to anything else. Although it's already the middle of the month, I still want to make a name for myself in the new monthly votes list. Regardless of whether I can get on it or not, let's work hard together and see how far we can go in the monthly votes list. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the legal reading. Chapter 79. He hadn't even left the valley before. His understanding of the southern barbarians was even worse than Chihua and the others. Therefore, although he had guessed that there would be cultivators, he hadn't seen them with his own eyes. He didn't expect that the first time he saw them would be because of the cultivators and his subordinate. Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry about this. Despite his thoughts, Sakura had no intention of watching by Susu and the others being captured or killed by the immortal cultivators. When he was dozens of meters away from the battlefield, he leaped forward with the momentum of running at full speed. The clouds were like dragons, and the wind was like tigers. With this leap, the wind blew, making the flowers and trees around him rustle and sway. Bang! Tian landed firmly on the ground. Under his strong impact, small cracks appeared on the ground under his feet and spread in all directions like a spider web. It looked ferocious. As soon as he came out, he looked forward and saw a spacious open space in front of him. There were few trees around. In this space, several cultivators in different clothes appeared in front of him. There were a total of 5 cultivators, 3 men and 2 women. Among the men, one was an old man, one was a middle-aged man, and the last one was a young man in his 20s. Of the 2 women, one was very coquettish. Her body was covered with a thin veil. When she moved, her snow-white skin made people want to swallow their saliva. The 2 peaks in front of her chest were so full that they were about to jump out at any time. The other one was an old woman, about 50 or 60 years old. Her face was full of wrinkles. Although cultivators had a longer lifespan than ordinary people, if they hadn't reached the core formation stage, their appearance would start to fade with the passage of time. They couldn't resist the erosion of time. Unless they had the legendary look-preserving pill, no matter how beautiful they would become yesterday's flowers in the blink of an eye. It was undeniable that this old woman might have been a beautiful woman when she was young. The 5 of them had a clear division of labor. Among them, the 2 ladies were fighting by Susu, while the 3 men were fighting in Kong. Surprisingly, the young man seemed to be the one giving out orders among the 5 of them. At this moment, Bai Susu's body was bound by the dozens of iron vine that the old woman had summoned. She struggled with all her might, but she was unable to break free. The seductive woman wielded a golden metal cudgel and smashed it down on Bai Susu's head. With each strike, Bai Susu would cry out in pain. At the side, the old man held a strange black net in his hand and kept throwing it at Inkong. Inkong's speed was extremely fast, and he dodged it in the blink of an eye. As expected of an immortal cultivator. You want to capture Inkong and Susu. You're courting death. Tian's tiger-like eyes immediately revealed traces of cold light. He raised his tiger claw high and let it hang in front of him. The monster essence in his body naturally flowed into the tiger claw. Instantly, layers of black monster essence appeared on the surface of the tiger claw, and the sharp claws shone with a black metallic luster. He swung the tiger claw at the iron vine that bound Bai Susu. In an instant, a pitch-black claw mark broke free from the tiger claw and appeared on the iron vine. The iron vine was extremely tough. Even the artifacts of immortal cultivators would have a hard time cutting it. However, Tian's claw mark was able to break it. The iron vine released a luster that resembled flowing water in an attempt to disperse the attack. However, the claw mark was extremely condensed. It burst out with a sharp black light and tore the iron vine in half. Hiss! Bai Susu's eyes lit up when she saw Tian rushing over. She quickly circulated the monster essence in her body. Her huge snake body shook violently, and a powerful force burst out from her body. White halos appeared all over her body. Boom, boom, boom. The ground beneath her trembled. The iron vine that bound her body tightly could not resist the powerful force that erupted from her body. It was forcefully pulled out of the ground. The iron vine borrowed strength from the ground. Its roots were extremely thick and were deeply rooted in the ground. Normal strength would not be able to pull it out of the ground at all. It was not hard to imagine how powerful Bai Susu's power was. King. After Bai Susu broke free, she immediately rushed to Tian's side. Her eyes were filled with excitement. King. These cultivators want to capture me and Susu. We must not let them go. Kong circled in the air for a while before landing beside Di-Shirtian. He stared at the 5 Zyuxianists in front of him with a sharp and resentful gaze. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The change in the situation was truly too much for anyone to handle. In the eyes of the 5 cultivators, they only saw a black tiger suddenly appear. Then, the situation that was going well suddenly turned around. Black tiger, it's a black tiger. Rumor has it that the psychic compass of the Li family was lost to a black tiger. The young man was shocked when he saw Di-Shirtian. They all heard the rumor and came to the southern barbarian lands together. Naturally, they knew that the one who had the psychic compass was a black tiger. In this world, black tigers were extremely rare. They were even rarer than white tigers. There would never be a second black tiger in the southern barbarian lands. Therefore, the moment he saw Di-Shirtian, he had already determined that the black tiger in front of him was most likely the one in the rumor. Look, there's a storage bag tied to the black tiger's body. The coquettish woman's eyes were extremely sharp. With just a turn, she found the storage bag on Di-Shirtian's body. Old you, quickly cast out your sky-searching net. Catch that black tiger and get the psychic compass. We can enter the heavenly demon's secret realm. With the compass's power, we might be able to find the heavenly demon's treasure. The young man's eyes lit up when he saw the black tiger. He excitedly urged the old man called Old You. Hearing this, Old Yu's eyes lit up with greed. He threw the small black net in his hand at Di-Shirtian's head. Search the heavens and search the earth. No taboos bind. At the same time that Old You threw out the black net, he let out a shout and his hands quickly formed a seal, striking it into the black net. Instantly, the black net that was originally the size of a rubber ball suddenly shot out a layer of black light. Within the black light, the black net rapidly expanded and became a full 8 to 9 meters in size, appearing above Sakura and by Susu. You're courting death. Sakura spoke in human language and roared. From his body, which was originally the size of a normal tiger, a surge of beast king chi gushed out. It was incomparably overbearing and invisible. It actually caused the surrounding trees to tremble violently. Many small trees were bent on the spot from the pressure. Beside them, a cold gust of wind blew out of nowhere. The pressure that was as heavy as a mountain and prison instantly fell on the 5 people. At the same time, Di-Shirtian looked coldly at the black net above his head. He raised his tiger claw again. Countless amounts of demonic chi gushed out from his pores and completely wrapped the tiger claw in demonic chi. A huge amount of demonic chi flowed into the tiger claw. Under the infusion of demonic chi, the tiger claw expanded several times on the spot. It became ferocious and terrifying. It can speak in human language? This black tiger is a demonic beast. After hearing Di-Shirtian speak in human language, the 5 people who were full of confidence and wanted to catch Di-Shirtian and seize the psychic compass from him changed their faces at the same time. They became abnormally pale. In the immortal cultivation world, almost everyone with a little bit of common sense knew that ordinary spirit beasts did not have the ability to speak. Only those who had transformed into demonic beasts and refined the bone in their throat could speak in human language. This was also the most obvious characteristic to distinguish between a demonic beast and a demonic beast. Run! This was the thought that flashed in the minds of the 5 people at the same time. Now, they did not have the slightest thought of catching the black tiger. They only thought of how to save their own lives. However, before they had time to put their thoughts into action, the domineering aura that was emitted from Di-Shirtian's body suddenly pressed on the 5 of them. Nearby, gusts of wind rolled up. Countless leaves on the ground were blown up and danced in the wind like knives. It was as if there was a huge mountain pressing on their bodies. Plop! Their legs went soft and the strength in their bodies seemed to be suddenly sucked away. Their knees heavily collided with the ground under their feet. They were forced to kneel on the ground. Roar! On the other side, the moment the tiger claw blasted toward the top of their heads, the demonic vitality that was poured into the tiger claw instantly blasted forward and directly condensed into a pitch-black tiger claw above their heads. The tiger claw condensed by the demonic vitality was more condensed than before. The moment it was condensed, it was accompanied by a soul-shaking tiger roar. The tiger claw opened, and each of the sharp claws flashed with a sharp light. Countless claw marks appeared in mid-air and connected into one, as if tearing the whole world apart, fell on the black net. The black net burst out bursts of black light. In the black light, there was a trace of corrosive and entangling power. It was extremely extraordinary. But after all, the black net was not a Dharma treasure, but a Dharma artifact. The owner of the black net was pressed down by the aura. He could not control it at all. The collision with the tiger claw could be imagined. Huge holes were torn open on the black net. Bai Susu and Ing Kong saw that Di Shirtian was so powerful that they could not cope with it. The immortal cultivators who were difficult to match were pressed down in an instant, and even the black net was broken. The respect and reverence in their eyes when they looked at Di Shirtian became more and more obvious. Moreover, under the respect in Bai Susu's eyes, there was also a strange look. Humph! You're looking for me. Di Shirtian did not kill the 5 of them on the spot. When the 5 of them saw what he said, they gave him a very unusual feeling. It was obvious that these people were here for him. This made him secretly vigilant. He said coldly, "Speak or die." As soon as he said this, the temperature in the surrounding air seemed to drop by dozens of degrees in an instant, giving people a bone-chilling coldness. The foreshadowing has been completed, and we are about to enter a climax. A bloody wind is about to blow in the southern barbarian mountain range. Also, the main character's weapons and magical equipment will slowly appear. Looking for monthly vote. Chapter 80. The 5 people in front of him were all independent cultivators. Because they were all going to the southern barbarian lands, they formed a small team and entered the mountain. Even if they couldn't find the psychic compass, they could find some precious spiritual herbs in the mountain to help their cultivation. Then, they didn't need to come here. When they entered, they did find some sealwort and strange herbs along the way. They also encountered some dangers. With their many years of experience, they all turned the danger into safety. As they walked further and further away, they accidentally bumped into Ing Kong and Bai Suzy, who were out looking for fruits and spiritual herbs. The 5 of them were overjoyed. After all, spiritual beasts had always been rare in the cultivation world. If they could catch one, just the spirit stones alone would allow them to cultivate to an extremely high level, not to mention other things. So, when they saw Bai Susu and Ing Kong, they immediately attacked. The 5 of them were all close to the late stage of chi refinement. In the middle stage of chi refinement they were above average. Although Ing Kong and Bai Susu had obtained the secret method of demon cultivation these days, it was too short. They were about to break through the second level. With the strength of their bodies they might be able to kill one of them. But if there were more than 2 of them, it would be difficult for them to win. If Di Shirtian didn't come at the critical moment, Ing Kong and Bai Susu would have been in big trouble today. If Di Shirtian didn't hear their unintentional words, he would have killed them on the spot. This, the 5 people who were forced to kneel on the ground by the overbearing pressure from Sakra's body couldn't help but change their expressions at the same time. From Sakra's question, they finally understood that this black tiger in front of them absolutely had a profound wisdom that wasn't inferior to anyone, and wasn't just a simple intelligence. No wonder the Li family lost the psychic compass in the black tiger's hands. The 5 of them thought at the same time, "Humph! Speak, or I will let you know what fear is." Looking at the hesitant look on the 5 people's faces, Sakra's eyes were as cold as ever as he said, "This king has tens of thousands of snakes under his command. I don't know what it would be like to throw you into the snake crowd and taste the taste of being bitten by thousands of snakes." When the 5 of them heard this, their faces immediately turned pale. "This king has thousands of eagles. I wonder how it would feel to hang you on a cliff and let the eagles peck at your flesh day and night." "Your Majesty, that's enough." When the young cultivator heard this, his eyes were filled with shock and his throat kept moving. If he really had to suffer the 2 punishments mentioned, he would probably suffer a fate worse than death. However, he clearly did not intend to agree so easily. He rolled his eyes and said with a firm gaze, "Your Majesty, I can tell you. However, Your Majesty must promise us that after we tell you everything we know, you must let us go." De Chertien's tiger-like eyes narrowed, becoming exceptionally oppressive. The purple royal mark on his forehead flickered with a purple light, as if it would jump out at any moment. Boundless might gushed out from the king rune. The pressure exerted on the 5 people in front of him was not just external pressure, but also a kind of deterrence that was directly applied to their souls. Under the deterrence of the purple royal mark, the 5 people in front of him lost their arrogance as cultivators. Their bodies trembled like a sieve, but the young cultivator still gritted his teeth and refused to speak. It was no wonder. If one's life was not guaranteed, they would die either way. Why would they want to give others benefits before they died? The 5 cultivators knew that this was a critical moment, whether they could save their lives or not. They held on with all their might. This was because they knew in the cultivation world that even if monsters had intelligence, they did not know how to be flexible. If they agreed, they would agree. There were very few examples of them going back on their word. If they could get De Chertien's promise, their lives would be saved. At this critical moment, they stimulated the potential in their bodies. Under the waves of pressure from De Chertien, they gritted their teeth and held on. De Chertien saw that. With his experience as a human, how could he not understand the inner thoughts of the 5 people in front of him? His tiger-like eyes narrowed, and he was silent for a moment. When the surrounding atmosphere became abnormally oppressive, he said, "Okay, as long as your answer satisfies me, this king can promise to let you leave here." "Okay, I'll speak." When the young cultivator heard this, his uneasy heart finally settled down. He let out a sigh of relief and spilled out everything he knew. Of course, all of them were about the psychic compass, the Lee family, and the rumors that were spreading outside and so on. After listening to them, De Chertien's heart could not help but tighten. He thought to himself, so the compass obtained in the Tiger Hill mountain range is called the psychic compass. The compass can actually search for treasures. No wonder it can incite a large number of cultivators to come to the southern barbarian. And the rumor is actually borrowing power from the Lee family. After listening, De Chertien constantly connected these messy information. With his wisdom, he had faintly seen a lot of things from it. He even had a feeling that the mastermind behind this rumor was not only interested in the psychic compass, but also might have designs on him. Moreover, there were suddenly so many cultivators in the southern barbarian. There was no doubt that the situation of the entire mountain range would become chaotic. "My king, I've told you everything I know. Now." The young cultivator looked at De Chertien with an expectant look in his eyes. The other 4 people were the same. The meaning was obvious. They wanted him to fulfill his promise. You can get out of here." De Chertien snorted coldly. His voice was loud and rolling like thunder. When the 5 cultivators heard this, they felt that the pressure around them dissipated in an instant. Without thinking, they quickly stood up and fled to the north at the fastest speed in their lives. He really ran faster than a rabbit. However, the moment they turned around, they did not see the trace of indifference and ridicule in De Chertien's eyes. After the 5 people left his sight, he looked at Su Ying and Ying Su. He directly said to Ing Kong and Su Su, "You two go back to the Myriad Demon Valley immediately and inform Chihua and the others not to leave the valley during this time. I will be back soon." As soon as he finished speaking, he had already appeared hundreds of meters away. The direction he was going was actually the direction that the 5 people had just left. Phew! We finally survived. It's really too scary. That aura was so oppressive that I almost suffocated. After escaping a mile or two, the 5 people stopped and gasped for breath. The old fisherman said worriedly. His eyes were full of the joy of surviving a disaster. "Yeah, I almost peed my pants. Demon beasts are really scary." The coquettish woman reached out and patted her towering chest. Her beautiful face turned pale. However, just as she was about to speak, her 2 seductive eyes widened in an instant, revealing a look of horror and despair. When the others saw this, they were puzzled and felt that something was wrong. Unfortunately, their reaction was still too slow. Beside them, 5 pitch-black crescent-shaped blades silently appeared. With a flash of the blades, 5 heads flew high at the same time, and bright red blood spurted out from their throat. After killing the enemies, the blades flew back in an instant. "Humph, I only promised you that you would be safe in my sight. You actually dared to capture my subordinates and wanted to capture me as well. If I don't kill you, how can I appease the anger in my heart?" Not far away, a huge black tiger looked at the 5 headless corpses in front of him indifferently. When he spoke earlier, he played a little trick. He only said that he would let them leave safely, but he did not say whether he would kill them after leaving. At that time, the 5 cultivators had been scared witless by Di Shirtian. How could they have thought of this? Di Shirtian caught up with them and killed them silently with the demon mist blade. Just as Di Shirtian was about to take the storage bags and other items that the 5 people carried with them, he could not help but be surprised. Why? It turned out that he suddenly noticed that the purple king pattern on his forehead suddenly changed. On his forehead, the king pattern formed by purple stripes was like a flame. It was beating violently at a speed that had never been seen before, as if it was about to leave his body and emerge. Traces of a mysterious deterrent force were constantly being emitted from the king rune. It had a soul-stirring aura. The surrounding hundreds of meters were all covered under this strange deterrence. Heaven and earth were in a state of war. In this range, no matter what kind of creature, there was a kind of trembling from the soul, and they did not dare to move at all. It was as if the slightest movement would bring about a disaster. It made the surroundings become deathly silent. Swoosh! At this moment, the purple flame in the king pattern violently jumped a few times, and a purple light burst out, sweeping toward the front in an overwhelming manner. In an instant, it covered the bodies of the 5 cultivators who had just died. Di Shirtian looked at the change in front of him with great surprise. Under the cover of the purple light, 5 extremely illusory figures emerged from the 5 dead bodies. The appearance of these 5 figures was exactly the same as when they died. The dead could not be resurrected, and they were killed by their own hands. He naturally understood that these 5 figures were definitely not living people. Since they were not living people, then it was quite clear what they were. Souls. These were the souls of the 5 people after they died. In the purple light, the 5 souls, one after another, showed a look of horror in their eyes, and they kept struggling. They wanted to break free from the purple light. At the same time, sharp screams came from their mouth. "Demon Tiger, you did not keep your word. You clearly promised to let us go, but you went back on your word. You will die a horrible death. What is this purple light? Let us go quickly." The 5 of them kept shouting, and Di Shirtian just looked at them coldly, quietly watching the situation unfold in front of him. The king pattern on his forehead was particularly different from the other tigers. He had known this for a long time, but he did not expect that the king pattern would have a special ability. Today's 3rd update. This is the first update, and there are still 2 more updates. One chapter is at around 12, and the other chapter is later. If you have the ability, please help me subscribe to it. Search the bookstore to see if there are any extra monthly vote. Chapter 81. Ah! The purple light that shot out from the purple king mark on the forehead turned into tiny purple threads above the 5 souls, entangling them. After being entangled, no matter how hard they struggled, they could not break free. Moreover, their bodies were pulled by the purple threads and quickly approached the king mark. No one knew what the purple light emitted from the king mark was, but the souls of these cultivators could not even resist and were abruptly pulled upside down. When they were close to the king mark, strange changes also appeared on them. They saw that the souls, which were originally the same size as their bodies, began to mysteriously shrink. The closer they were to the king mark, the faster they shrank. Almost in the blink of an eye, when they were in front of the king mark, the souls of the 5 people had shrunk to the size of a thumb. The purple king mark suddenly blazed and swallowed the 5 souls in an instant. The purple light that had been scattered out also quickly converged in an instant. It disappeared. This is, Chertian's eyes showed a trace of doubt. Now, although the king mark on his forehead had returned to the past, he could clearly feel that there seemed to be something more in the king mark. Moreover, in the power of the king mark, he could vaguely feel a mysterious power flowing in it. His eyes became a little deep. An idiom that he had seen in his previous life suddenly appeared in his mind: accomplice to the tiger. He remembered that when he heard this idiom, in order to understand its meaning, he had specially looked up some information. He still remembered the content clearly. Legend had it that the word chi in accomplice to the tiger represented a chi ghost. In ancient times, it was said that people who were eaten by tigers became chi ghosts after death, and were specially used to lure people to be eaten by tigers. Being a chi ghost for the tiger. It was a metaphor for being an accomplice of the wicked. Moreover, in Taiping Guangji Volume 430, there was a record. Chi ghosts, people who were eaten by tigers, were in front of tigers. Song Sun Guangxian's Northern Dreams So Yen 1 Volume 4 also had a record. All ghosts who died by tigers and drowned in water were called chi ghosts and had to be replaced by one person. There was also a legend that when a tiger bit a person and killed him, the deceased did not dare to live with the tiger. It was called chi ghosts. Chi ghosts led the way for the tiger. When encountering a hidden trap on the way, they moved forward. When a man meets a tiger, his clothes will be taken off. It was all done by chi ghosts. When a tiger sees a man, it feeds on him. Generally speaking, it meant that the souls of people or creatures killed by the tiger would not enter the cycle of reincarnation after death. Instead, they would be bound to the tiger's side and be controlled by it. In the past, Chertian had only thought that it was an ancient legend and not real. But now that he saw the sudden change in the king mark on his forehead, he couldn't help but think of this possibility. Could this be the innate ability I've awakened? It would be a lie if he said that he was not looking forward to his innate ability. In the past, he had always seen that Chi Hua had an innate ability. He was born with the ability to spit out a pillar of fire. The power was so strong that he could challenge immortal cultivators head-on. Weaker opponents would be burned to death by his fire. Furthermore, one's innate ability was an ability that would accompany one's entire life. It could continuously improve as one's strength increased. He had great potential. However, envy was envy. Whether or not one's talent could be awakened, and whether or not one had the potential to be awakened, was not up to them. It required luck and time. Perhaps it would awaken naturally. No one knew the process of awakening. If there were 1,000 possibilities, there would be 1,000 possibilities. When he broke through to a demon beast, Chertian had also carefully examined himself. He did not find any signs of awakening his innate ability at all. He didn't expect that his innate ability should be in the king mark on his forehead. Coupled with the strange ability of the king mark to devour souls, he couldn't help but associate it with the story of helping a tiger do evil. After pondering, De Chertion was eager to know if he had really awakened his innate ability. He didn't care about collecting the storage bags of the 5 immortal cultivators. He stood in place, closed his eyes, and probed the purple king mark on his forehead with his demon's sense. How could this be? As he probed, Sakra's heart suddenly changed. He wasn't surprised, because he discovered something strange. His entire body was his own, and it was extremely easy for him to use his demonic sense to probe anywhere. However, when he probed the purple king mark on his forehead, he discovered something inconceivable. The purple king mark did indeed have a mysterious power. There seemed to be a strange space within the king mark. The space was not large, and it was very spacious inside. It was filled with a layer of purple liquid. It filled the entire space. Rather than calling it a space, it would be better to call it a pool. Within the purple pool, he saw the 5 immortal cultivators that he had seen being sucked in. They were astonishingly appearing in the purple pool. They were constantly struggling, trying to climb out of the purple pool. However, no matter how hard they struggled, they were unable to climb out of the pool. The purple pool seemed to be filled with a mysterious power that continuously entered the bodies of the 5 immortal cultivators. It seemed that the immortal cultivator wanted to assimilate the 5 immortal cultivators with the purple pool. It was very strange. However, there was something strange about this. He could only use the purple king mark on his forehead to absorb the immortal cultivators. He could not use any of its other mysterious abilities. Strange. I can clearly feel that the power of the king mark is far from just this. It has great potential and contains even more mysterious abilities. However, I can only feel it, but I can't grasp how to use it. De Chertion muttered to himself. Although he did not know what kind of ability he had awakened, just the ability to absorb immortal cultivators' souls was already extremely extraordinary. However, now was not the time to carefully examine his innate ability. Thus, after learning a little about the power of his king mark, he refocused his mind. His originally closed eyes quickly opened. His 2 hind legs pushed off the ground, and his sturdy tiger body leaped into the air. He naturally landed in front of the 5 immortal cultivators' corpses. He quickly swept his gaze over them and took out their storage pouches. He put them in his own storage pouch and carefully searched through them. Sakra's gaze suddenly congealed with a trace of coldness. Looking at the 5 corpses, he thought to himself, the bodies of immortal cultivators contain far more essence than ordinary animals. I can't waste it. He had already eaten them once before, so he did not have much of a psychological burden to do this again. After all, they were already dead. They were just empty shells. Even if he did not eat them, they would be eaten by other birds and beasts. Now was the time to think of all possible methods to increase his strength. He could not let go of any opportunity to increase his strength. As he thought about this, his tiger body immediately trembled. Waves of demonic aura immediately surged out from his countless pores. At the same time, his originally normal-sized tiger body could be seen rapidly expanding. 1 zhang, 2 zhang, De Chertion's body could be seen growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he had become an enormous creature that was at least 5 zhang tall. The majestic tiger aura spread out like a tide. The domineering aura caused the surrounding atmosphere to become stifling. It was incomparably ferocious. Who? He opened his tiger mouth. At this moment, the tiger's mouth was like a huge black hole. It sucked in the air in front of him, and in an instant, a violent gust of wind rose from the ground. The 5 corpses were swept up into the air by the gust of wind. Under a terrifying pulling force, they were swallowed one by one into his stomach. Just as De Chertion swallowed the corpses into his stomach, the demon refining cauldron that had been silently revolving in the Yao mansion all this time, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Suddenly, it trembled and emitted a snow-white jade light. A strange devouring force was emitted from the cauldron. This devouring power directly rushed out of the demon manor and entered Sakra's body. Immediately, it firmly wrapped around the 5 bodies that had been swallowed and quickly brought them into the demon manor. Moreover, it easily entered the Yao mansion. At this moment, the demon refining cauldron became even more excited. The jade light emitted from the cauldron condensed into long snow-white ropes, which danced nimbly in the Yao mansion. Crash! A few sounds were heard. The 5 corpses were wrapped up by the long ropes and quickly brought into the demon refining cauldron. Strangely enough, when these corpses approached the demon refining cauldron, they naturally began to shrink. They were so small that the demon refining cauldron immediately sucked them all in. Dang! In the Yao mansion, a sparkling cauldron lid suddenly flew out of nowhere and covered the demon refining cauldron. For a moment, the light was dazzling. The demon refining cauldron's rotation speed suddenly increased. One round after another, it spun continuously, bringing with it the surrounding jade light. It was like the Milky Way in the starry sky, flowing strangely around the jade cauldron. So the demon refining cauldron actually has such a function. Not only can it refine the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon, it can also refine the bodies of living creatures, extract the essence of the bodies, and finally condense it into demon essence. No wonder the heaven-grade Yao mansion. Even in the ancient times, when the Yao clan was at its peak, countless Yao clans yearned to open it up. Since Di Shirtian's appearance, he had seen everything without missing a single detail. When he saw the demon refining cauldron swallow several corpses together, not only was he not shocked, but he also felt a burst of joy. He could feel that the demon refining cauldron was constantly refining those corpses. It wanted to refine their flesh, blood, and bones into the purest essence. If Di Shirtian were to absorb it himself according to the original method, he would only be able to absorb about 60 to 70% of the essence. However, the demon refining cauldron was refining all the power in their bodies into essence. This kind of refinement was 100% refinement. Moreover, the essence refined was even purer. This discovery would definitely save him a lot of time for cultivation. After a short observation, he let the demon refining cauldron operate on its own. He opened his eyes, shook his body, and his huge body shrank again. In the blink of an eye, he was back to his original size. The commotion just now was too big. Di Shirtian did not stay in this area any longer. He turned and ran back to the Myriad Demon Valley. This time, he had obtained too much information. He had to go back to the valley and carefully organize it. The second update has arrived. The third update will be later. I cut off the internet at around 2:30 p.m. So, if it's after 2:30 p.m., I will release the third update tomorrow morning. Don't worry, the third update will not be less. Chapter 82. Indeed, the harvest this time was too great. First of all, he learned the use of the psychic compass from the 5 cultivators, the situation in the mountain range, the purple mark on his forehead, and the demon refining cauldron in his demon mansion. All of these things were related to him, so he couldn't be careless. Also, the 5 storage pouches he plundered from the 5 cultivators, although their owners were only chi condensation stage cultivators, so there might not be anything good inside. However, in contrast, Di Shirtian didn't have anything. He lacked everything, so he was very interested in everything related to cultivators. Previously, when he was in the Tiger Hill mountain range, he obtained a book that recorded spells. Although it was only the most basic spells, if he mastered all of them, it could greatly increase his strength. Therefore, he placed great importance on items from the immortal cultivation world. After all, he was now poor and everything was precious. Chertian's body quickly shuttled through the mountain forest, quickly approaching the myriad demon valley. Squeak, squeak. Underground, the big rat beside the Rat King, Big Rat, quickly shuttled through the underground tunnels. It was very fast all the way, and not long after, it jumped from one of the tunnels to a spacious place. The huge Rat King was lying on its throne, sleeping with its eyes closed. Its needle-like whiskers shook from time to time. "My king, good news, good news, good news." Big Rat came to the front of the Rat King's throne and screamed. In the spacious underground cave, it was very ear-piercing. Squeak! The Rat King was awakened by the screams, but it was obviously in a bad mood. The moment it opened its eyes, 2 rays of light shot out, piercing straight towards Big Rat. However, just as it was about to pierce its body, the light rolled back and retracted back into its eyes. Even so, Big Rat was still paralyzed on the ground with fear. Its eyes were filled with horror. Next time you wake me up when I'm sleeping, I'll kill you." Rat King looked at Rat Big in front of him. His beard puffed and his eyes widened. His expression was full of displeasure as he said, "Speak, what is the good news?" Recently, he had been particularly uncomfortable. Originally, he had rushed into the myriad demon valley excitedly, wanting to swallow Chertian in one fell swoop. With the help of the divine light, he had broken through to become a demon beast in one fell swoop. However, not only did he not achieve his expectations, but he had also killed millions of rat soldiers in the valley, causing the strength of the rat race to be greatly weakened. Rats were originally timid. After suffering such a big loss in the hands of Chertian, he almost couldn't even come back alive. This incident left a deep impression on him. Without absolute strength and without growing into a demon beast, the Rat King would never have the guts to find trouble with Chertian again. During this time, the Rat King was afraid that Chertian would seek revenge, so it didn't dare to leave the underground. It was either eating, sleeping, or bathing in the divine light in front of the altar. "My king, this is really good news." Rat Big's 2 small eyes revealed an excited expression. He said, "My king, didn't you say before that if you want to become stronger, you have to eat a spirit beast with the same strength as you, or eat a 2-legged monster that can walk on 2 legs? That can also greatly increase your strength." "What 2-legged monster?" "That's called a person." Rat King heard this and turned his small eyes. He asked, "Why are you asking this?" "Those people are not easy to deal with. Those people are not easy to deal with. They can release fireballs and summon lightning. Tell the people not to provoke them for now." The other rats didn't know, but how could the Rat King not know? Those people were called immortal cultivators by the demon beasts in the mountain range. Each of them had all kinds of magical powers. They were in groups of 3 to 5, and some demon beasts had suffered losses at their hands. Therefore, the Rat King had always kept a respectful distance from the immortal cultivators. "My king, this subordinate brought the brothers to patrol around and found the body of the person you mentioned. This subordinate thought that this body must be useful to my king, so I asked the brothers to bring it back." Rat Big said excitedly. It turned out that when he was patrolling underground, he would occasionally poke his head out to check the situation above. Inadvertently, he found the body of an immortal cultivator. When he found it, the immortal cultivator was already dead. When he saw it, he remembered what Rat King had said before. He suddenly thought that if he offered this body to his king, there might be a great reward. "What?" Rat King's eyes shone with a trace of joy. He had heard from the demon beasts in the mountain that if he ate the flesh of these immortal cultivators, it would not be inferior to eating spirit beasts of the same strength. "Good, good, Rat Big, you did well. This king wants to reward you. You can go to the altar and bathe in the divine light for 30 days. Rat King was unusually excited. He shouted, "As long as I eat the immortal cultivator and bathe in the divine light, I will definitely become a demon beast. At that time, I will find that black tiger for revenge. Rat King was very excited because of the sudden appearance of hope for a breakthrough. On the other hand, Di Shirtian returned to the Myriad Demon Valley through the passage. He did not disturb Chihua and the others. He returned to his cave alone. Lying on the familiar fur, he took off the storage pouch that was tied to his body. The storage pouch flashed, and one item after another appeared. It was the 5 storage pouches. The restrictions in the storage bags had always been weak. With his current strength, it was unusually easy to open these ownerless storage bags. It did not take much effort for him to break all the storage bags. Crash! With a crisp sound, the items in the 5 storage pouches were all poured out at once. With this fall, the originally dark cave was immediately illuminated by all kinds of colorful light. It was grotesque and variegated. It seems that these 5 immortal cultivators are quite rich, Di Shirtian thought to himself. His eyes fell on the pile of items in front of him. He saw that there were really many kinds of items. First, there were several dozen spirit talismans glowing with spiritual light. He did not pay too much attention to these spirit talismans. He put them aside and put them into his storage bag. Then, there were some stones of different colors. These stones were different from the others. The surface of these stones had different colors, and there were traces of light flowing on them. These are spirit stones. Unfortunately, there are too few of them. Even if they are used for cultivation, they won't last long. Looking at these different stones, Di Shirtian had long understood that these were the spirit stones that everyone in the immortal cultivation world longed for. If one held them in his hand during cultivation, he could absorb spiritual power from the spirit stones. The spiritual power contained in the spirit stones was often quite large. Absorbing the power inside and cultivating would be faster. He had obtained them before, but even with the current ones, the number was too small. There were only 35 pieces, and they were all low-grade spirit stones. Even if they were used to assist in cultivation, they would not last long. Shaking his head secretly, he also put the spirit stones away. Then, he looked at some ordinary immortal cultivation items that he couldn't identify one by one before putting them back into his storage bag. After a while, there were only a few ancient books left in front of Di Shirtian. I learned some basic magic arts from the ancient immortal cultivation book I got last time. I wonder what is recorded in these ancient books. Looking at the ancient books, Di Shirtian could not help but feel a little excited. These were the ancient books of immortal cultivators. For a Zuyuist like him, who knew very little about the immortal cultivation world, every bit of information was extremely precious. He valued ancient books far more than those so-called treasures. He picked up the first book and glanced at it. Journey in the Purple Mountain. What is this book? On the cover, there were the words, Journey in the Purple Mountain. This book title reminded Di Shirtian of the classic of mountains and seas he had read in his previous life. He vaguely guessed that this might not be an ancient immortal cultivation book, but an ancient book similar to the classic of mountains and seas, which recorded all kinds of rare and exotic beasts. In fact, it was not out of his expectations. He opened it slightly and read. On the first page, it was written like this. I, carefree scholar, have reached the Jindan stage after 300 years. I know that my aptitude is limited and I have no hope of reaching the Yuanying stage. I lament that there are no ancient books on the continent that record all kinds of strange stories. I specially spent 300 years traveling around the continent to collect strange stories and legends from all kinds of places. I hope it will be helpful to future generations. Seeing this, Sakura also understood that it was indeed the same as what he had thought. Although this book was not an ancient immortal cultivation book, its importance was no less than that of an ancient immortal cultivation book. With this book, he could have a general intuitive understanding of the world in the shortest time possible. Seeing this book, he could not help but feel a burst of joy. However, He did not read it immediately. Instead, he put it aside and continued to read the next book. The Basics of Weapon Refining. When he saw the title of the next book, Shirtyan's eyes could not help but burst into a ball of light. Immortal cultivators had two strong points that the demon clan could not compare to. The first was alchemy. They could refine all kinds of miraculous pills to assist in cultivation, greatly reducing the cultivation time, and could easily break through the bottleneck. They could use all kinds of inconspicuous spiritual herbs to refine powerful pills. This kind of method could not be said to be not magical. Shirtyan had personally experienced this point. He was very clear about the power of the spirit-gathering pill from before. Without the spirit-gathering pill, he definitely would not have been able to transform into a demon beast so quickly. The second was alchemy. Although immortal cultivators did not attach much importance to their physical body, and the strength of their physical body could not be compared to that of the demon clan, they could refine all kinds of magic tools and treasures. It allowed one's strength to be unleashed to the greatest extent. A good magic treasure could be relied on to fight against experts whose cultivation was far higher than one's own. Some magic tools were even earth-shattering. The art of weapon refining could be said to be magical. It could be said that what Sakra had always hoped for the most was to be able to obtain some alchemy and artifact refining manuals, to see if he could learn the refining techniques within. In that case, the benefits would definitely be immeasurable. Damn, I slept too late last night and only just got up now. I'll immediately turn on my computer and update. This is the third update. Looking for votes. If you have a monthly vote, don't keep it anymore. Chapter 83. The Basic Guide to Refining Weapons. From the name of the ancient book, it could be seen that this was just the most basic knowledge of refining weapons. Even so, Shirtyan was still excited. The basic guide was good. What he wanted now was these basic ancient books. He knew nothing about refining weapons and had never come into contact with it. If there was a profound ancient book of refining weapons in front of him now, he would feel distressed. Instead, he would feel distressed. Think about it. If you put an advanced calculus textbook in front of a primary school student, would you expect him to understand it? A bird in the hand is better than 10 birds in the bush. This principle was quite vulgar and easy to understand. The most suitable was the best. Now, the basic guide to refining weapons was obviously the most suitable for a novice like Shirtyan, who wanted to get involved in refining weapons. His tiger eyes flashed. He reached out his tiger claws, took the ancient book in front of him, and flipped open the pages. There are all kinds of ores and materials that contain magical power in the world. They are all evolved from heaven and earth, and have different mysteries. However, heavenly materials and earthly treasures often contain impurities. They can't be used by people. They can't exert their full power. That's why there is the saying of refining weapons in the world. What is refining weapons? Refining weapons is combining all kinds of materials in heaven and earth into one and using the mystery of the array to stimulate the instinctive power of the weapons. It maximizes the potential of the weapons. It forms celestial artifacts, magic treasures, and even spirit treasures with infinite power. The path of refining weapons is deep and long, broad and profound. When one refines them to a certain extent, he can rely on them to enter the Tao. Good, it's really straightforward. Shirtyan couldn't help but nod when he saw the opening. The words were very concise and straightforward. Even those who didn't know how to refine weapons could still understand the meaning. Moreover, it clearly outlined the philosophy of refining weapons. He sighed secretly and immediately focused his attention on the ancient book in front of him. He continued reading. There are thousands of refining methods, but the main ones are the same. There are two main ones. One is to use traditional methods to combine all kinds of materials with the help of arrays to condense celestial artifacts and magic treasures. The quality of such weapons is closely related to the refiner's cultivation and the materials used to refine them. The better the materials, the higher the cultivation level of the refiner. The quality and ability of the Dharma treasures and Dharma treasures refined would also be greater. The power of this type of magic tool had its limitations. Usually, after it was successfully refined, it was extremely difficult to increase its power. Only a few would be different due to the profoundness of their refining method. Furthermore, it was to refine a natal Dharma artifact. This type of arcane artifact was extremely mysterious. It required blood refinement by blood essence, merging the primordial spirit with the arcane artifact and carving it into the 9 heavens' 9 extremes origin returning formation. Only then could he succeed. This type of magic tool was a natal magic tool. It had the potential to evolve and transform. If nurtured properly, magic tools could also transform into magic treasures. Natal Dharma artifact? Seeing this paragraph, D. Shirtian's heart trembled violently. He faintly felt that this might bring him great inspiration. He quickly continued reading the general outline from beginning to end in one breath. Who? D. Shirtian exhaled lightly. The light in his tiger-like eyes intertwined and flickered constantly. He muttered, natal magic tool, there is actually such a magic tool. It's too incredible. It can actually seize the essence of other magic tools and Dharma treasures to enhance the power of its own magic tool. Then it can transform. Magic tools can transform into magic treasures, and magic treasures can transform into spirit treasures. This was an evolved Dharma artifact. Immortal cultivators are really not ordinary people. They can actually come up with such a wonderful refining method. He was secretly amazed by the magic of the natal magic tool. Moreover, his eyes could not help but flicker with a trace of blazing light, with a look of desire. Immortal cultivators can refine their own natal magic tools. Why can't I refine my own natal magic tool? He muttered to himself. The method of making a natal celestial artifact was not complicated. In fact, it could be said to be quite simple. As long as one had a bit of cultivation, they could start making it. Even a small chi condensation stage cultivator could do the same. However, the materials required to make a natal celestial artifact were relatively precious. Otherwise, even if you used ordinary refining materials to refine a natal artifact, I'm afraid its potential for improvement would be negligible. Refining or not refining, what was the difference? The idea of having a natal magic tool of his own, as soon as it appeared in his mind, kept circling and lingering. The more he thought about it, the more determined he became. For a long time, he had seen immortal cultivators flying around with magic tools, and every one of them had extraordinary power. It would be a lie to say that he did not yearn for it. It was just that he did not know how to refine it before. Even if he seized some magic tools from other immortal cultivators, the power of those magic tools was not as strong as his own monster body. It was also of little value. It was not suitable for him. In the future, it would be used as a reward for his subordinates. Therefore, he had been thinking that if there was a chance in the future, he would look for a powerful magic tool or magic weapon. For the time being, he was not in a hurry. As long as he paid a little attention to collecting some refining materials, it would be fine. But now, the refining method of the natal magic tool, which had the potential to continuously improve, appeared in front of him. D. Shirtian finally could not help but begin to think about whether he should start refining a natal magic tool of his own. If I want to refine a natal magic tool, I'm afraid I don't have suitable materials. Well, let me think. To refine a natal magic tool, materials were naturally needed. However, D. Shirtian thought about it, the materials he had were really pitifully few. They were all taken from other immortal cultivators. They were all the most common materials, which absolutely could not be used to refine a natal magic tool, a treasure that would accompany him for a lifetime. The only thing that made him feel satisfied was only one item, the mysterious jade embryo that he had obtained in the Tiger Hill Mountains. There was no need to say more about the miraculous nature of the jade embryo. It had helped him overcome many obstacles time and time again. Moreover, although it was jade, its body was abnormally hard. Moreover, the jade embryo contained a mysterious power. It could be said to be a supreme treasure. If it was used to refine a natal magic tool. De Chertien's eyes became uncertain. Once such an idea appeared in his mind, it was difficult to dissipate for a long time. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that if he did this, he might really refine an earth-shattering demon tool. However, the jade embryo was so big, what kind of demon tool should he refine? For a time, he could not help but have a headache. At this moment, there was a burst of messy footsteps outside the cave. From the sound, De Chertien heard that it should be Chihua and the other 5 people coming. Sure enough, outside, Chihua's loud voice came into the cave. "King! Come in," De Chertien said in a deep voice. Chihua, Bai Yu and the others answered and came in. There were only 4 people. Yuan Tian had been staying in the wine brewing cave because he wanted to brew the monkey wine. He did not dare to leave without permission. "King, those cultivators are too abominable. Just now, Inkong's clansmen sent news that there are at least thousands of cultivators in the mountain range. They are scattered in every corner of the mountain range. In the mountain range, many spirit beasts have already been killed or captured." Chihua's eyes were red and he was breathing heavily. His descendants were killed by the cultivators with his own eyes. His hatred for the cultivators could be said to be the deepest. When he thought of the thousands of cultivators in the mountain range, the anger in his heart kept rising. As soon as he entered the cave and saw De Chertien in front of him, he first respectfully lowered his head, and then complained about the changes in the mountain range. "Yes, King, these cultivators are a big threat in the mountain range. Even Susu and Inkong were almost captured by them. I beg you, King, to let us out of the valley and teach these cultivators a lesson." Bai Yu's eyes flashed with a faint green light. This time, the matter of Inkong and Bai Susu filled them with righteous indignation. Under De Chertien's command, the 5 of them had followed him all the way and had a deep relationship with each other. How could they just let it go like this? Not only that, they all came here and begged De Chertien to let them out of the valley. De Chertien's eyes exuded a kind of dignified momentum, which made Chihua and the others immediately stand respectfully and dare not say more. "Chihua, Bai Yu, I know you want to avenge Inkong and Susu, but this matter is not simple. There are many cultivators in the mountain and they are all in group. With your current cultivation, you will not be able to get away with it. You don't have to say more about leaving the valley. I will not agree to it," De Chertien said in a deep voice. "Yes, King." Chihua and the others, who were originally full of momentum, immediately deflated like rubber balls when they heard this. They did not dare to disobey De Chertien's words. "Here are some spirit stones. Keep them with you when you are cultivating. They can speed up your cultivation. Each of you choose a piece and help Yuan Tian pick one as well. Then you will go to your own place and cultivate in peace. During this time, you are not allowed to leave the Myriad Demon Valley." Looking at the 4 dejected subordinates in front of him, De Chertien did not change his mind. He just asked them to choose a spirit stone in front of them and take it back. When Chihua and the others heard this, their eyes immediately fell on the spirit stones on the ground. After knowing that these stones could assist in cultivation, they all showed a look of expectation. According to De Chertien's instructions, each of them chose a spirit stone. Chihua chose a spirit stone of the fire attribute. He himself was partial to fire. Inkong also instinctively chose a spirit stone of the metal attribute. Bai Yu and Bai Susu also chose a spirit stone of the water attribute. After that, Tian also personally chose a spirit stone of the metal attribute for Yuan Tian and asked Qi Hua to give it to him. After that, Qi Hua and the others also left the cave one after another. This time, it seems that someone is targeting me in the southern barbaric mountain range. Well, I will play with you. A cold light flashed in Tian's eyes. He used a storage bag to put all the items on the ground into it. It just so happened that he had transformed into a demon beast. This time, he could use these cultivators to familiarize himself with the power that he was not yet familiar with. He could also kill people and steal their treasures, killing several birds with one stone. Blindly cultivating in seclusion was not the best way to cultivate. I don't know if it's because I sat up too late last night, but when I woke up this morning, I caught a cold and kept coughing. Today, I won't be going to the third watch, it's going to be the normal 2. There's still one more watch later. Sorry. Chapter 84. He abruptly stood up and directly left the myriad demon valley. Tian had already realized one of the benefits of the heaven-rank demon abode, and that was that he could strengthen himself through slaughter. This was because after killing his opponent, he could completely absorb the enemy's body into the demon abode and use the demon refining cauldron to refine their body into pure essence qi and blood essence. Essence qi could be refined into demon essence, and blood essence could be fused into the body to strengthen it. After leaving the valley, Tian's black body easily disappeared into the dense mountain forest. Quickly look, the southern barbaric mountain range is truly worthy of being a treasured land with abundant spirit qi. Even a rabbit has spirituality. Catch it, a small animal like a rabbit is very attractive to girls. Brother Deng, our luck this time is really good. It doesn't matter if we didn't find the psychic compass. Just the few spirit herbs we found and this rabbit are enough for us to cultivate for a long time. Isn't that so? 2 young cultivators who appeared to be in their 20s were walking together in the mountain range. Not far from them, there was a snow-white rabbit. The rabbit's body was emitting a rich spiritual energy, and its eyes were moving, revealing traces of a lively spirit. It was obviously not an ordinary species, but a spirit beast with spirituality. In the immortal cultivation world, such small animals were extremely attractive to female immortal cultivators. However, just as they excitedly took out various spirit talismans and wanted to capture the spirit rabbit, an unexpected change occurred. Poochie! Amidst the sound of flesh being penetrated, a pitch-black tiger's claw directly pierced through the chest of the cultivator surnamed Deng. The moment the powerful demon essence pierced through his chest, it shattered all the vitality in his body. His vitality was extinguished. The light in his eyes gradually dissipated. Ah! Who is it? When the other cultivator saw this, his eyes were filled with horror. A golden blade, as long as a dagger, instantly emitted a layer of intense golden light in front of him. Within the light, there were traces of the smell of blood. A fierce aura swept towards the person who appeared behind him like a tide. Its speed was extremely fast, to the point that it directly pulled out a clear afterimage in the surroundings. On the blade, a cold golden light flashed. This was a middle-grade magic item, the Sun Saber. If there were 9 or more Sun Sabers of the same type, they could form the Sun Saber formation, which was known for its sharp attacks. Clang! However, when the Sun Saber was halfway through, a pitch-black claw suddenly appeared in front of the saber without any warning. The claw was a tiger's claw. Around the tiger's claw, waves of pitch-black demon chi filled the air. Within the demon chi, there was a fierce killing intent. Clashing with the sharp Sun Saber, the tiger claw emitted a black light. Under the cover of the black light, the tiger claw became as hard as diamond. There was not a single scratch on it. Bang! After blocking the sun blade, Tiger Claw did not stop there. Instead, he flipped his claw, and his demonic aura skyrocketed. The air suddenly froze, as heavy as a mountain. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him. He slapped the sun saber. Suddenly, a shrill cry came from the saber. The golden light that was emitting fiercely was dispersed by the claw. The golden saber fell to the ground and was deeply embedded in a large rock. At the same time, the other tiger claw broke through the air and pierced into his chest with a ferocious aura. The cultivator didn't even have time to scream before the light in his eyes dissipated. This time, they could see that behind them, there was a black tiger with a purple king pattern on its forehead. It was completely black in color, and had a black tiger with a purple king pattern on its forehead. This black tiger was none other than Tion, who had just left the myriad demon valley. The light in Socratianhu's eyes didn't change because of the killing. It was still cold and unfeeling. With a thought, the purple king mark on his forehead sprinkled out a purple light and landed on the two corpses. Under the purple light, the souls of the two cultivators were quickly pulled out of their bodies. Then, they rushed into the king mark on his forehead. Then, he swallowed the two bodies and put them into the demon refining cauldron. After putting away the other items, he jumped and returned to the forest, disappearing. This series of events happened in the blink of an eye. However, in this short period of time, no one would have known that two immortal cultivators had already been killed. Of all the traces, only a pool of blood on the ground was left. It still showed to the world that there had been a killing here. Hey, did you hear? In the past 2 days, many cultivators who entered the mountains suddenly died. Moreover, only blood was left on the ground. The corpses disappeared. There are more than 20 examples like this. To be honest, I don't know why, but I feel that this mountain is a bit gloomy. The atmosphere is not right. Yes, there are many demonic beasts in the southern barbaric mountain range. Who knows what dangers there are? I've heard from others that there are several thousand cultivators who have entered the mountain range. With such a large number entering the mountain, perhaps the demonic beasts in the mountain will riot. This won't do. As I see it, we can't stay in the mountain any longer. Even if we find the psychic compass, we won't have a share in it. If we continue to stay in the mountain, we might even lose our lives. I heard someone say that someone saw with their own eyes a demonic beast use its claw to stab into a person's body. TSK, it directly pierced through from the back to the chest. Looks like it's really the demonic beast taking revenge. In the southern barbaric mountain range, for some unknown reason, a large number of cultivators had suddenly died in the past 2 days. Moreover, they had all died in rather strange ways. No one had seen them alive, and no corpses. The places where they died often had rather few signs of fighting, and they had died inexplicably. However, one time when someone died, a cultivator just happened to appear nearby. With a glance, he only saw a black claw being pulled out of a cultivator's chest. As for the rest, he didn't even think before turning around and fleeing. Such a series of occurrences also caused the cultivators who entered the southern barbaric mountain range to discuss with each other. All of them were uneasy, and many of them even made up their minds to leave the mountain range. At this time, in a small valley in the mountain range, there were more than a dozen cultivators gathered together. These cultivators were different from the others. The clothes they wore were the same style. It was a kind of blue brocade clothes. There was a mark similar to a compass on the clothes. Obviously, this mark had some kind of symbolic meaning. Among these people, a middle-aged man was the leader. This person was none other than Li Wan of the Lingnan Li family, who already had the cultivation of the middle stage of foundation establishment. In front of him were all outstanding disciples of the Li family. To be able to follow him here, all of them were junior experts who had reached the middle stage of chi refinement. Accompanying him was an old man with a somewhat gloomy temperament. Just by looking at him, one could feel a kind of gloomy and cold pressure from his body. Fourth Elder, I have already used the soul-searching technique on the cultivator we caught. From his memory, the last black claw he saw should be a tiger claw. Looking at the situation, it is very likely that it is the black tiger we are looking for, Li Wan said to the old man with a natural expression. His tone showed that he did not feel the slightest burden of using the soul-searching technique. What was the soul-searching technique? It was a vicious and evil technique that was specially used to search a person's memory. It was vicious because if this technique was used, the person would completely become an idiot, and it would be difficult for him to recover. Yes, if it is really the black tiger we are looking for, then its intelligence is probably much more powerful than ordinary people. It actually knew how to attack the cultivators in the mountain one after another. Moreover, looking at the situation, this black tiger has most likely transformed into a demon beast. It is not easy to deal with. The old man, who was the fourth elder, frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "No matter what, there is an 80% chance that the psychic compass is with the demon tiger. We have to get the compass back no matter what. The compass is related to our family's operation to enter the heavenly demon secret realm in 3 years. Whether our family can achieve glory depends entirely on whether we can obtain the treasure in the secret realm in 3 years. Li Wan's expression was firm. Elder Wan, it is not impossible to catch the black tiger. We can totally set up a trap. The fourth elder's eyes shone with a cold light, with a slightly uncomfortable aura. A trap? Li Wan heard this and could not help but feel happy. In the Li family, the fourth elder was the best at strategizing. After the Li family's group discussed in the valley for a while, the group of disciples immediately left the valley. 28th. Di Shirtian skillfully pulled the tiger's claw out of the chest of a cultivator and skillfully absorbed the soul, collected the corpse, and put away the artifacts, storage bags, and the like. At this time, he was emitting a cold, murderous aura. The look in his eyes was even colder than before, and the purple halo that burst out of the purple king mark on his forehead was even more profound. The aura on his body was extremely sharp and aggressive. It had only been 2 days since he left the Myriad Demon Valley, but with his innate sensitivity and the demon sense that was much stronger than that of those chi refinement cultivators, he was like a fish in water in the mountain forest. He constantly found those weak cultivator teams and hid in the dark. He did not make a move, but once he made a move, it was a fatal blow. At this time, it was already the 20th cultivator who had died under his claws. The souls of those cultivators were absorbed into the purple king mark, and the bodies were thrown into the demon refining cauldron. The demon refining cauldron displayed its powerful ability to refine the bodies of those cultivators into a large amount of essence and blood. The demonic liquid produced by the corpses of more than 20 cultivators allowed his demonic chi to grow by half at a shocking speed. His cultivation was completely stabilized. After 2 days of continuous hunting, plus the cultivator that I deliberately let go before, the cultivators in the mountain should have heard the news by now. There will be a kind of vigilance, and some people will leave the mountain range in fear. However, it is definitely impossible to make all the cultivators leave the southern wilderness. Di Shirtian secretly pondered. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.